This November, Illinois voters will have the chance to fire Governor J.B. Pritzker and replace Dick Durbin in the U.S. Senate. And in less than a month, Republicans will choose their nominees. Tonight, the candidates for governor and U.S. Senate have gathered at Benedictine University in Lisle for a critical debate just weeks before the primary election. Now, here are your moderators for tonight's debate, Mike Scott and Greg Bishop.
Auditorium on the campus of Benedictine University here in Lisle. We want to welcome everyone listening tonight on AM 560 The Answer, and those watching us live on YouTube and on Facebook. We begin tonight with three of the Republican candidates for governor, Ted Dabrowski, Rick Heidner, and Sheriff James Mendrick. Again, we have also invited Darren Bailey to attend tonight's debate, but he declined our invitation. I'm also joined by my co-moderator. He is a reporter from the Center Square and Illinois Radio Network. Again, please welcome Greg Bishop. Tonight, we begin with opening statements from our candidates. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for an opening statement. We determined prior to tonight's event that Mr. Ted Dabrowski will go first. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, both of you, and thank you to the university for hosting. My name is Ted Dabrowski, and I'm running for governor, and my ambition, my goal is to make Illinois a top 5 state again. We should be one of the best states in this country, competing with Florida, competing with Texas, competing with North Carolina and Tennessee. And Governor Pritzker has done the opposite. He's made us a bottom 5 state in so many things, and a top state in the wrong things like property taxes, so we have to get Pritzker out of office. I want to tell you that I'm the most qualified candidate exactly for the problems that we have in Illinois. We have massive financial problems. Chicago was downgraded today. We need somebody who's got the banking experience, the finance experience. I've had the international experience for 15 years building out businesses for Citibank in Mexico and Poland, and I want to bring that expertise and combine it with my expertise of the last 15 years doing public policy work, hammering on these tax issues, hammering on the out-migration of Illinois. Let's put those two things together. I will help bring Illinois back. Thank you.
And now an opening statement from Mr. Heidner.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us here. My name is Rick Heidner, running for governor of the great state of Illinois. I come from very little beginnings. You know, my mother raised my brother and I by herself. We struggled. I know what it is to start off with basically absolutely nothing and build and build and build. Today we have a tremendous amount of businesses in Illinois. I employ over 800 people, 4 major businesses, and my background is business. The reason I'm running, the main reason I was running, is I just couldn't stand to see all these people getting hurt in our beautiful state. You know, the Safety Act, the sanctuary state, none of it works for us. We're all in trouble with that. The business part is easy for me. All I ever saw in Illinois was all they want to do is take all the money they can from you. And I want to make the state a state of making money, you know, building businesses, bringing businesses back here, and really growing our state.
And finally, tonight, an opening statement from Sheriff Mendrick. Sheriff?
How y'all doing tonight? Thank you for coming out. My mission is a mission of safety. I want to make this state safe again. I want to see the sanctuary state gone on day 1. I want the Safety Act modified into oblivion. If I could take it away, I would, but there are legislative ways that you're going to have to do this. I will be the one to do it. We need to keep our schools safe. No more sex, and I understand the difference between biology and sexuality in schools. No more sex in schools. No more woke agendas in schools. That woke agenda cost Naperville here, what, a $12.3 million deficit in your school budget this year for that agenda? I promise safety. I promise security. I promise budget. I run an $80 million budget with supervising over 800 people. I've never gone over my budget in 12 years. I stay within my budget, which is a lot different than what we're dealing with in the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your opening statements. We will now begin with questions for the candidates. For the first 2 rounds of questions, we will ask the same question to all three candidates. Then, for the third round and every third round after that, we will ask candidates specific questions which only they will answer. Candidates will not be allowed to directly address or question one another. They will be expected to respond to questions asked by moderators within the 90 seconds allotted to them. And our first question tonight comes from Greg Bishop.
And this is for Mr. Heidner. To start, today, the Illinois House advanced out of committee a mega site project bill that would give local decisions about property tax cuts or sales taxes for these large types of projects. Now, the sponsor says it's not specifically about the Chicago Bears, but critics warn that it could cost taxpayers. What role should the state or local governments play in keeping an organization like the Chicago Bears in Illinois?
So this is something I've been talking about for months. You know, we need to keep our beautiful Chicago Bears here in Illinois. If I was governor, the Bears have owned that 326 acres in Arlington Heights for 3 years now. If I was governor, that project be half built right now. So that is a huge complex. It's way more than a Superdome, all right? We get the Super Bowl with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars brought to our region. But it's also much more than that. We have hotels and fuel centers and restaurants and bars and condominiums. So, you know, giving back some of that money that they're gonna produce in tax so that they could, you know, build what they need to build, to me, it only makes sense. I've done this my whole life. You know, they produce tax. Now, where they're at right now, they've rented for 100 years. They deserve to own their own property. If they would have done this, if we would have helped them 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 70 years ago, we wouldn't be in this predicament right now. And we may lose the Bears to Indiana. I mean, it's unconscionable to me. So we don't have a zero there. We have a big negative if they leave, because all the money they produce will be gone. And with all of these millions and hundreds of millions of dollars of tax that'll be given to us every year by producing all this business and everything, I mean, it'll take us a few years to get that money back and recycle, but we have to keep the Bears. And it's just simple business sense for me that this works.
Now the same question to Mr. Dabrowski. What role should state or local governments play in keeping an organization like the Chicago Bears in Illinois?
I think we have to understand that Governor Pritzker's created a mess that it's so bad that the iconic Bears would actually leave Illinois. You know, we saw Caterpillar headquarters leave. We saw Boeing headquarters leave. We saw Citadel and Ken Griffin leave. He's made a mess of Illinois. And here's what's interesting about this. You know, now that the Bears are finally leaving, he wants to come up with some mega deal, right? 40-year tax protection for the Bears. How many of you get 40 years of property tax caps? Oh, right. So in 7 years, he's done nothing for you. So I say this, you know, when Governor Pritzker can come up with a 40-year deal to protect you guys, then we can talk about a 40-year deal for the Bears. Until then, no special deal for the Bears. Now we should do, thank you. Now I love the Bears. I want the Bears here, and we should do the common public financing that you would do for any kind of public infrastructure that benefits the public. But there's no special deal for the Bears within the stadium. That's for them to fund. Now, here's what I think I'd like to hear the legislature come out with. A deal that says we're going to put a 1% cap on the value of your home on property taxes. Right now, you're close to 2% in Illinois. Go to 1%. We've got communities that are paying 4%, 5%, 6%. The deal that should be done is a hard cap on your home. That's what Governor Pritzker and the legislature should be doing.
Same question to Sheriff Mindrick. What role should the state or local government play in keeping the organization like the Chicago Bears in the state?
So, you know, it's easy to say over and over, you know, we don't have a revenue problem here in Illinois. We're actually a very rich state. We have a spending problem, a big spending problem. And I would say the biggest, if you look at all of them, and running an $80 million budget in government, watching this play out every single day, being next door to Cook County, being the second biggest county, I recognize that the sanctuary state is costing us into oblivion. We're still $1.6 billion on the hook just for their medical. That could have paid for the Bears almost twice. So how about this? Last year in 2025, we spent a whole $1 billion just on the housing and feeding of illegal immigrants that we're up to almost 800,000 of within our state. 800,000 people that we have to support. How about we pick the bears, our big businesses like Boeing and Tyson, all these Caterpillar, how about we pick them instead of the illegal immigrants? How about that we prioritize Illinois instead of foreign countries? How's that for a beginning? Because I'll tell you what, I run the second biggest county in the state. So every 3 years or so, we do a big thing in Medina Country Club. And we're having the President's Cup. Now, when you look at the BMW Cup that we had, the Ryder Cup, you have no idea the revenue something like this pulls in. Not only, like Medina does. They have this big President's Cup, and it generates tens of millions of dollars for DuPage County. Hotels, even people are renting their driveways for thousands of dollars a day. It's insane how much money these events generate. And we have been able to do that in DuPage County and bring these profits in through these special events. A Super Bowl, a UFC, pay-per-view events, that'll make us so much money.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your answers. Mike?
Again, candidates, make sure you mind your time. And again, I would request that the audience please hold the applause to a minimum so we can make sure the questions get answered. This is a question, again, same question for all three candidates, and I'll start in this case with Sheriff Mendrick. Property taxes are a massive issue for voters in this state, among the highest in the nation. What concrete steps would you take in your first 100 days, if elected, to lower property taxes without cutting necessary services to taxpayers?
So there's a trifecta. I think the first thing is I'm going to go back to sanctuary state because that is the most expensive thing that we're paying for. NGOs, without any kind of guidelines on auditing or any way they could be FOIA'd or checked on spending, no performance metrics, it makes no sense. We're pumping out billions of dollars without any form of audit, which that is by design. I write contracts for a living. If you're not adding in the auditability on an NGO, it's because you don't want it there, so you can cheat. That's how they're funneling money. Now let's go to Medicaid fraud. The Department of Family Services was FOIA'd recently and said, how many people are you giving Medicaid to without providing a Social Security number? 22,000 at the average of 11,000 a year a piece. That's $242 million. And that's a tip of the iceberg. We're going to look like Minnesota if this investigation continues. I just think that we could lower property taxes if we lower how we do business. And hey, have you guys heard now the build plan? The build plan means that I can now knock your house down next door after you sell it and have it built into an apartment complex. And within a year of your neighbor selling it, you have an apartment complex. Why do you think they're building these apartment complexes? Who are those for? Those are for the 750,000 new residents that we have from foreign countries. So now, mind you, they can undercut local government and stop them from restricting these houses, right? And inspectors, if you don't inspect fast enough, they'll send a third-party state inspector to speed up the inspection for you so they can sell that land and develop it within a year. So in a year of one of your next-door neighbors moving in residential anywhere in Illinois, you can have an apartment complex filled with illegal immigrants? No way, not under my watch.
Candidate Heidner, same question, please.
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. So the first thing I do when I got in office was I would put a freeze on all tax increases. No tax increases at all until we go through every single solitary department and go through a thorough audit on all of it and get rid of all the waste and all the corruption and everything that's going on with all those departments. Then from there, back to bringing businesses back to Illinois, getting manufacturing back here, doing all kinds of things to create jobs, to create hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people coming back to Illinois so that we could build, so we could have a higher tax base. We don't have to increase any taxes. We already have a tax base that we just need to do more business to collect more tax. We went from $37 billion of budget when J.B. Pritzker was here. Now we're at $56 billion. Between those two things, then after those things happen, then I can lower taxes. And that's the goal.
And candidate Dabrowski.
Yeah, so I mentioned the 1% hard cap on individuals and on their homes. Also want to have a 3% hard cap on companies. But look, to get the taxes down, guess what we have to cut? Spending. And to cut spending, what do we have to cut? The waste, fraud, and abuse. Can you guys imagine that we have a little bit of that in Illinois? Yeah, and so look, units of government. We have the most units of government in the country by far. Take school districts where most of your property taxes go. We have 850 school districts. Florida has just 74. We have 11, 12 times the number of school districts. Guess what? 11 to 12 times the number of bureaucrats, superintendents, bookkeepers, lawyers. You can imagine what it is. And guess what? They make lots of salaries and lots of pensions. Now, here's the other part I would go after. Salary spiking. We have salary spiking in Illinois. At the end of a government worker's contract, they can resign and they get automatic 6% increases for 4 years in a row. And guess what happens to their pensions? Whoop. And then the other thing that we're still doing, we're still double dipping. We have superintendents that retire in their 50s with a full pension, and then they go work again for another school district half-time and generate money. This is the kind of stuff we have, and I've covered all that at Wire Points for the last 15 years in IPI. And I know where the bodies are, I know what to go after, and I promise to do that for all of you. Thank you.
This next round will be specific questions for each candidate, and we'll start with Mr. Dabrowski. You've proposed cutting the state's income tax from 4.95% to 3%. What specific reductions would you be looking for in state spending to make that a reality, and how would you make up for the loss in balancing the budget?
Yeah, well, I don't think we'd have a loss. We'd have a more efficient government, a better government. So, if you look at the rest of our neighbors across around us, they're all having rates below our rate except for Wisconsin. So Indiana now has a lower income tax rate than we do. They're below 3%. Kentucky has done the same. Missouri just announced they're going to 0%. We are getting our butts kicked when it comes to income taxes, so we can lower them. And I look at things that are amazing, like higher ed. The amount of administration that's been hired in the last few years in higher ed is phenomenal. It's not money for the classroom. It's not money for the kids. It's for administrators and pensions. And nobody has done a thing about them. So I could replicate that over and over in government where we have so much fat. You guys have heard of and it's just a different income line, but you've got schools in Chicago and CPS that, this is Douglas High School. They have a capacity for 1,000 kids. There are only 38 kids enrolled in the school, and none of them can read at grade level. And there's a few of those schools like that, massive schools, empty, but they're kept open by the unions. So you have to strip away a lot of the power of the unions to bring those income taxes down. We can do it. Thank you.
Mr. Heidner, separate question to you. You've made several high-profile donations to Democrats. Why should Republican voters trust that you represent Republican ideals? And do you regret making any of those political donations to Democrats?
So, I've been a businessman. I've been in business for 45 years. And I've had my own business for actually almost 50 years. And I work with both sides. I work with Democrats. I work with Republicans. I actually think it's a big asset at this point because I'm going to have an open door policy. And I have a lot of respect. I get a lot of respect from Democratic politicians. I get a lot of respect from Republican politicians. And it's just the way that I've always done my business. I'm a people person, and I work through these things. I have over 30 buildings in Chicago. I have all these businesses, and people want to pick on me for giving money to Brandon Johnson. I've explained that many times. I tell everybody, well, I gave $100,000 to Paul Vallis. So and then even after he lost, he called me to have me help him, and I did. So, but the good news is that I'm going to be able to work with everyone. I'm so well respected, and I have a relationship with all these people. So I just think it'll help us in the long run, build a lot, and if you're not working with both sides, especially in Illinois, it's a whole Democratic, majority. What are you really going to get done? So I think it's an absolute asset.
And for Sheriff Mendrick, you've centered your campaign on law and order and repealing no cash bail policies. What evidence from your own county shows that your approach would work statewide?
So let's start with 80% of the people have the second biggest jail in this county. In the state, second biggest jail in the state. So we're right next to Cook County. 80% of the people who come in my jail are on substance. And that's heroin, fentanyl, alcohol, everything mixed. Half of them are self-medicating for mental health issues. We do full drug detoxification, medicated assisted treatment, Suboxone, methadone, one-on-one psychiatric care. We have 200 counselors that teach, train, and educate, 80 courses per week, anger management, criminal thinking. I do gang tattoo removal. I let College of DuPage actually build a college, a satellite college within my jail. We just got $650,000 grant, the college did, just 3 days ago to perpetuate another 3 years of these programs. Our recidivism rates came down from 75 to 15%. That's repeat offenders. Thank you. Our heroin, opioid rates, substance abuse rates from 90 to 20% with these programmings. Every $1 we spend in rehabilitation, we save 19 in incarceration costs. I'm probably saving DuPage County close to $10 million. Could be replicated across the entire state for savings of $100 million. Well, I change your criminal population into your working population, but right now with the Safety Act, we let them go after they see a bond court after 2 hours while they're detoxing. How fair is that? That we're taking people and instead of offering them these rehabilitative programs that save their lives, reduce taxes, reduce housing in the jail, reduce money in every way. Do you know how much money we spend in criminality? Well, we wouldn't if we continued to be allowed to do it. I asked Harmon and Slaughter and all them when they were making it, put in remand for rehabilitation. They wouldn't do it. They lied to me. They said they would and they didn't. And now we're letting go people after 2 hours when they see a bond court while they're detoxing.
Mike?
This is round 4 of questions. This is the same question for all candidates. Same question for all candidates. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of the state of Illinois, has, it seems, unlimited funds to campaign, hire, and buy media. How do you overcome the seeming insurmountable financial advantage that J.B. Pritzker and his campaign seem to have? We will start the questioning with Mr. Heidner.
So I wish they would have it so that you couldn't put any money of your own money in an election. For me, that would be the most fair. It is an incredible amount of money that he spent, but I believe that nobody should be able to really buy an election. Right. So it's going to be difficult. I think. When I looked at the playing field of who was running, and this is one reason why I ran, I just couldn't see anybody that would really be able to take him on and beat him. And I felt I was the person. I fought him already and came through that, thank goodness. But I think when I win the primary, I think I'm going to be able to get money through the entire United States. And I think I could really fight him on a lot of issues, a lot of things that I know, and a lot of things that the way that he runs the government and runs his businesses through the government. So, I really feel that I can generate money through the whole country. I think I'll get a lot of backing from everywhere, and obviously I'll put in funds of my own, which I'm able to do, but I definitely won't be able to do as much as he is. That's an incredible amount of money he has.
The same question to you, Mr. Dabrowski. How do you seemingly overcome that financial advantage?
I have to overcome his advantage first. Look, I think for me it's very simple. Pritzker doesn't tell the truth. He never tells the truth. We have to tell the truth. We have the facts on our side. Think about it. He puts illegal immigrants over his own residents. Think about the sanctuary state laws and his welcoming laws. He puts criminals over victims. Think about the Safety Act. He puts the Chicago Teachers Union over students. Right? He attacks family values, family rights. He attacks religious rights. Closes our churches, closes our schools during COVID. This gentleman does everything that is extreme, and look what he's done with life, right? He's turned us into the abortion tourism capital of the nation, or maybe the Midwest, and then he did the assisted suicide. He is so extreme that I think there's a huge opening, and we have a huge opening with the black community because they hate what he's done with the illegal immigrants. I think the Hispanics also don't like his DEI policies and his extremeness on those kind of things, and extremeness on life. And I think there's a lot of moms out there who have hated seeing their parental rights taken in things like parental notification of abortion, parental notification of transing of kids. He's so extreme, we have a great opportunity to build a coalition to beat Pritzker and get him out of office, despite his billions.
To you, Sheriff Medrick, the same question, please.
I'll be the one to take J.B. Pritzker out on stage and declare all of the Illinois compiled statutes that he has broken and violated to do a lot of the stuff with our budget money that he's done. I was a financial investigator. I was a head detective for 6 years in the second biggest county in the state, did nothing but investigate financial crimes, drug cartels, million and billion dollar embezzlers, retail theft rings. This is what I do. I myself invested, incepted, and created a digital forensics laboratory that the tools now are being used by all 40 municipalities within DuPage County and the federal government, where we can get into Androids, Apples, retro technology. If you're old enough to know what a Commodore 64 is, can even get into one of those. So I'm telling you, I don't care if it's old tech or new tech, we're tech. And we could take these tools. Think about it. I would retire as sheriff to become governor. I would still be a certified policeman by the Illinois State Training Board for 2 years and be in charge of the state police and be able to give them digital forensics tools to do audits on our entirety of our state computers and our budgeting devices. They'd all go to jail. I'm telling you right now, I am an investigator, and you know what? Without as much money as these guys, I'm telling you, a guy like me has to drive to 87 counties in an 11-month term. So, Illinois is 7 hours long if you drive in it. 7 hours and you can still be in Illinois. That's what I've done with my time. I've gone to every single county almost in this entire state.
Greg Bishop.
All right, now time for round 5. Same question to each candidate, and this is about public education in Illinois that continues to lag behind neighboring states despite spending nearly $23,000 per pupil on average. The current administration has rolled back and fought against school choice while teachers' unions continue to have oversized influence. How would you improve public education outcomes while addressing concerns about curriculum, parental involvement, and school choice? And we'll start with Sheriff Medrick.
Thank you. Great question. Here it is. We need school choice. I believe in homeschooling. Schools need to be competitive. We need to be rating our schools. We need to be identifying who that bottom 10% is. So I'm going to go back to our jail. We do GEDs, high school equivalencies, because half the people that we get from Chicago, and that's half my population in the second biggest jail, can't read or write. But in a 2-year period of time, I could take somebody who's illiterate, get them a GED, college, vocational training, and in a 2-year period of time, they can orate a written report about small engine repair or whatever class that they're taking. How can I solve high school and college in 2 years, and our school system can't do it in 12? I'll tell you what, it's because you're confusing the kids. You're introducing sex. You're introducing politics. You're introducing all these things that distract people from reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is an erosion of our school system and our society. Let our kids be kids. Let them learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. Prioritize these things instead of political ideologies that do nothing but disrupt. You know what every single inmate says that when they come in and they say, the reason I'm here is because I was introduced to sex too young. I was introduced to drugs too young. This is what's eroding our society. We need to get back to the building blocks of normal education and quit teaching this crap to kids in school that don't benefit them but impede their ability to learn.
Same question to Mr. Dabrowski. How would you improve education outcomes?
Well, first, I want to remind people that 4 years ago, I got Governor Pritzker to lie on the debate stage about education because I had exposed in a Wall Street Journal article that our kids weren't reading. And he denied it. He said that we were wrong, even though it's his own State Board of Education data. It's something I've been fighting for years. If you guys Google Ted Dabrowski and school choice, you'll find I've been a massive advocate for that, and I will bring school choice here. Universal school choice. It's a wave across the country. It has to come here after Pritzker and the legislature killed it a few years ago. So I will fight for school choice. Now, even though we get school choice, we still have to fix our public schools. And so what I will do is pass a 3rd grade law. If a kid can't read in the 3rd grade, he or she will not be able to go to the 4th grade. And that's to hold the teachers and the unions accountable. Florida has that law. Mississippi has that law. And they've improved tremendously in Mississippi because of it. We have to hold our unions accountable because nobody holds them accountable. I also want to bring back phonics. I read, if you guys remember Hooked on Phonics? I taught all 4 of my kids how to read with Hooked on Phonics. It was amazing. It was, I don't want to say it's easy, but it was great. And the last thing I want to do for accountability, let's grade those schools. The schools need to be graded with an A through an F so that we know who's failing, who's doing well, replicate what's good, and stop what's bad. Thank you.
And Mr. Heidner, how would you improve public education?
Well, I'm all for school vouchers. I think that school teachers and schools should be accountable. The way I see it, and the way I've seen it for a while, there's some great teachers out there, but a lot of these schools, a lot of these school districts, they've really turned into a political party rather than worrying about educating our children. They should be accountable to the parents, and they should be accountable to the student. So my idea is whatever we're spending on these children in the school, if you're not happy with it, if your child's not being educated, then if we're spending $30,000 per child, I want to be able to give you a $15,000 school voucher where you could put your child in a private school or someplace that you can get your child educated. You know, for me, again, I just see that they're only worried about, a lot of these districts are only worried about the kind of power that they can have. And when they're politicizing our schools. And I want to educate the children. You're the customer, the child's the customer. The teacher's the employee, okay? So we need to make sure that they're doing the right job, or you're gonna fire them and you're gonna move somewhere else. In my businesses, anybody's businesses, if you're not taking care of your customer, you lose your customer. You lose your customer, and that's the way that I feel that they should be accountable.
Thank you to the candidates. Mike?
We are into round 6, and this is a round of specific questions for each candidate. Mr. Dabrowski, we will start with you. If there is a state in the Midwest that you, if elected governor, would like to emulate, what state would that be and why?
Well, I think we have to just look at Indiana. Indiana, 25 years ago, and especially when I came back to the States, 18 years ago, Indiana was kind of a joke. People weren't very excited. If you said you're moving to Indiana, it'd be like, what happened? Today we're losing. We lose net. I mean, more people move from Illinois to Indiana than Indiana to Illinois. We're losing people on net. And, think about it. They have low taxes. They have school choice. They have vouchers for $8,000 voucher. Anybody can access it. They've been very competitive. They might even have the Bears. Sorry. I don't want that to happen. No, Indiana has done a really good job. And I think what's happened there is they've decided to compete. And this is what I'm really worried about, and this is one of the big things I want to change, is they have a culture of competition. They have a culture of winning. And Mitch Daniels, by the way, it's an interesting story. Mitch Daniels, when he took over there, he saw all these cars, all these state cars in a huge lot, and he said, "Do we need all these cars?" He put a penny apparently on the wheel of every car, and came back, I don't know, whatever it was, a month later, and those that still had pennies on them, he sold all those cars because nobody was using them. It's a different mentality, and I think we have to change our mentality of how to win, how to compete against other states, and we should be kicking the butts of Indiana and Missouri and Iowa. Missouri is trying to go to a zero income tax. Look at how they're thinking. They want to compete with Tennessee and Texas. So that's what we have to change, our mentality.
To candidate Heidner, Mr. Heidner, 15% of Illinois residents live in rural portions of this state, but oftentimes they feel vastly overlooked, especially, they say in surveys by Governor J.B. Pritzker. Talk to Edwards County, talk to Clay County, Perry and Randolph counties, Marion and Union counties. How would you ensure fair economic development there without ignoring the economic engine of, say, Will County?
Well, we have so many farmers and ranchers in Illinois, and, we have to really worry about those people. We cannot lose all of our family farms and our family businesses to big corporations, and worse, if foreign agencies like China start buying up all of the farms. I don't ever want the Chinese to have anything to do with our food, anything to do with the production of our food. I give an example. My brother was buying dog food, and the dog food ended up being manufactured in China, and his dogs died. I mean, they put poison in the food, and they ended up with kidney problems, and he lost 2 of his dogs. I mean, how could we ever turn over our food chain to people that hate us? So I think it's a huge thing that we make sure that generational farmers, when the parents die and the farms go to the children, that we have to find some way so they don't have to pay that tax. We have to find some way so that these people can keep their farms and they're not forced to lose them. When it comes to, I'm in the fuel business. We have a fuel distribution and the Ricky Rockets fuel centers. I mean, we make the corn, for the ethanol. I mean, that's good. Whatever we can do to keep these farms growing and growing and growing, that's what we have to do. And I'm all for those people, and want to do everything we possibly can to keep them in their homes and in their businesses.
And Sheriff Medrick, to you, what are 2 or 3 things that help you every day while campaigning that you learned while on patrol in DuPage County?
Patrolling DuPage County is a little specific. I could say it'd be easier to say what I'm learning every single day on the campaign trail. And let's tap on both of those things that you just asked the other 2 opponents. That let's pick my favorite, say Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee. You want to talk about China and how to deal with China? They took over all the plant seed factory and manufacturing. How about eminent domain for any foreign entity who's incombative with the American, the U.S. states? I mean, why would we allow ownership of property in Illinois or America by foreign-held entities? I would propose to do what Sarah Huckabee did with the Chinese people in the businesses in Arkansas. And then with soy and corn, right now, we're occupying that land with solar panels. They're atrophying technology into the land, can make it unfarmable for 20 to 30 years. Those should be soy and corn to make ethanol and export biofuel. You know what? Coal. It's a clean energy source now. I didn't know any of this stuff. That's why when you ask me, what have I learned? You know what? I've become educated. I've created advisory panels and agriculture advisory panels and 2A advisory panels and voter election integrity. And folks, we need to be on a paper ballot system. I'm telling you that right now. Dominion, they can change election results, and none of this will matter a lick anyway, because they're going to change it the way they want it. I have discovered things that I never thought I would. Ignorance is bliss, and what I've learned in this process means we need a new governor.
Round 7 goes to Greg Bishop.
This will be the same question for all the candidates, and it's about something that many taxpayers are facing in the state of Illinois, and that's high property taxes. Among the highest in the nation, if not the highest in the nation. It's become harder to buy and sell homes in Illinois because of the steep property taxes homeowners are forced to pay. What concrete steps would you take at a state level to help lower local property taxes, and how would you help offset that lost revenue to local governments and school districts? And this will go first to Mr. Heidner.
So once again, we actually have the highest property taxes in the entire country, which is just ridiculous. The highest taxes of so many things. 3rd highest gas taxes. It was 2nd, but guess what? Hooray, hooray! Now number 3. Income tax between local and state income tax, we're taxed higher than almost everywhere. So yeah, the idea again is we need to go through every department, clean everything up. We need to get rid of all the waste. We need to then we need to build more businesses and then reduce all the property taxes. I mean, the property taxes are insane. If you take your square footage of your house and you divide it by your tax bill. For me, they wanted me to pay $13 a square foot to live in my own house. You have a 2,000 square foot house, you pay $26,000. You have a 10,000 square foot house, you pay $130,000. It's insanity. It's insanity. There's no end in sight because these people that are in Power right now, they don't know how to do anything but charge you more money. That's all they know how to do. And I have to tell you, I'm with Sheriff Medrick. Since I've started this, I can't believe the stuff I see. I can't believe the stuff that I have found, how horrible and ridiculous it is. It's so sad, it's unbelievable. They actually play us, and they're making all kinds of money off of everybody that's here, everybody that works. And they get into power, and then they just take everything they can.
Thank you, Mr. Heidner. Now, Mr. Dabrowski.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 15 years, so this kind of stuff is not something new to me. I know what it is. I know on day one where to go after it and where to find it. Now, thank you. Now, here's the great example. So I did big reports on this and exposed it. So in my own school district, New Trier High School District, there are 6 elementary feeder districts within it. So there are 7 superintendents in there. They all make over $300,000. They all have assistant superintendents. And then we got the bookkeepers. So when you add them all up, it could be 1 unit district. And that's what I would do tomorrow. And then that would dramatically drop the salary cost, and it would drop the pension cost. So you're solving 2 things at the same time. That's one issue. Executive pay. You guys know Dalton, Illinois, where our famous mayor's from. Their superintendent has a salary of the school superintendent, $525,000. And only 19% of kids there can read. So what the heck, right? Now what happens when that superintendent makes that much money? What do the other superintendents nearby say? I want that too. And guess what happens? Everything goes up. That's what we have to bring down. And let me say one more thing, that with this AI and with all this technology coming on, can you imagine the consolidation of all the back offices of all these units of government, schools, the city, library, and park districts? Unite them, combine their back offices, save tons of money, lower property taxes for you.
And Sheriff Mendrick.
So like I said, I've run an $80 million government budget for 12 years and never gone a dollar over. Again, it's not about being a revenue problem. We are a fairly rich state. We make a lot of money. We spend it horribly, though. When you look at headcount alone, you want to see job, okay, so in a government job, not business. In a business, I could actually hire a man and woman and pay them differently and not get sued. In government, a nickel difference and you're being sued. We're government business. We go from a thing called the Haymarket studies that create these things called job codes. Job codes are codes that attach to every single government employee that says, here's your floor, here's your ceiling. You have to pay them in between those numbers. Well, folks, that's not being honored. We need what we call a job task analysis. And that's why I say, having built a digital forensics unit that does nothing but audit and invade computers to find out the wrongdoing, these tools are what need to be attached to our budget systems to see where an analysis of jobs could be found out who's getting paid too much or too little within one day. The first day, that's doable. And the bidding processes. I'll tell you, they're not taking the lowest bidder. They're faking sole sources. The local government distributive fund, that's the only way mayors and village managers can pay their infrastructure out of the income tax, but that's been taken. The local motor vehicle tax, that's only for infrastructure fixes. They swept $300 million. J.B. Pritzker swept $308 million out of that. And when questioned about it, oh, that's interest. That's because you didn't spend the capital. That's cheating. Don't cheat, and maybe we can lower your property taxes.
And just a reminder, we're going to do what we can to stick close to the time so that we can get as many questions answered as possible. Next round for Mike.
Candidates, suburban voters in Illinois increasingly, if recent voting numbers are any indication, are voting blue. As candidates, what is your message to suburban residents that could turn these voting blocks that you will need to win at least purple in this election? And we'll start this round of questioning with Sheriff Mendrick.
Thank you. Great question. So, even though it's a 7-hour long state and I'm driving 5 and 6 hours away for a lot of things, I go to Chicago probably 3 times a week. I live in Woodridge, so it's a 25-minute drive for me to Chicago. I was the Juneteenth Person of the Year by the Black Chamber of Commerce last year. I go into the city all the time. You know what they say their issues are? Safety, 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 and safety. They are sick of 42 shootings. I'm not going to go racial here, but you know what? 2 people that look like me could be killed in a different state. We're going to hear about it for 2 months, but 42 black kids get shot in one weekend in Chicago, and there's not a peep. The investigations, where are they? I mean, why are we tolerating this kind of violence? Why are we putting up with this and doing nothing about it like it's normal course of doing business? Now, the city, the largest voting bloc in this state, is sick and tired of that. They're sick and tired of being afraid to come out. That's why they moved into DuPage and turned DuPage blue. But I will tell you, you know what? In the last election, I got 60,000 more Democrat votes than the highest voting Democrat got in DuPage County. You know what? There's always been a saying, I don't care if you hate me because I'm a policeman, I will help you anyway. And that's what we do. We help everyone. You know what? My county didn't want us to have tasers, and it's in a blue county, and it got voted against twice against me. In the last round, I came in and said, I just want to make sure you're going on record today to say that you want the cops to have nothing but bullets to shoot people with. And guess what? I got my tasers. That's how you work the Dems.
The same question to candidate Dabrowski.
Democrats have been running Chicago for 94 straight years. Cook County, more than 100 years. Democrats running the state government, more than 3 decades, let's say, especially more recently with supermajorities. They have made a mess of this state. We're a bottom 5 state. They own it. The onus is on us to make our case to our neighbors, in the suburbs in particular, because many times in the suburbs they're somewhat protected, but they're seeing their friends leave. How many of our kids are going to college somewhere else and not coming back? Way too many, and that's a story that I think can be told over and over again. You've got U of I. Your kid might be really smart. You've worked hard to get him or her to be smart. They can't get into U of I because the Chinese nationals take 6,000 spots there. It's a mess. It's a mess. And so I think we have this great opportunity in the suburbs to say, look, this DEI stuff is extreme, and Governor Pritzker and the Democrats are behind it. You've got boys and girls sports. Right? You've got the transing stuff going on in schools. You've got people leaving. You've got your neighbors leaving. We can't be losing anymore. It's time for us to win, and that's what we have to persuade our neighbors in the suburbs. Thank you.
Mr. Hardner, the same question. How do you reach, and you yourself have reached across the aisle as a businessman, how do you reach voters in collar counties that have seemingly turned in past elections blue? How do you reach across and get them to vote for you?
Well, I have to tell you, people are really getting sick of what's happening here in our state. They're shifting. They're shifting for sure. They cannot stand to see, just like I couldn't stand to see all these people getting hurt. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. We've taken away the power from our policemen. I've talked to Sheriff Mendrick about this, where policemen now can be sued by criminals. They take somebody down, they break their shoulder or something, doing their job, and the criminal can sue the policeman civilly. People are tired of this. People are tired of the revolving door on prisons, on the judicial system. You arrest somebody, 4 days later, they're out. People want to be safe. People want to be safe. It's easy to shift people at this point. It really is easy to shift people. And that's what I plan on doing. And they understand, and they're really, really seeing it. And everyone's tired of this thiefdom that's going on. And what we see in Minnesota and California, we're probably sitting in the middle of the same kind of problem with the kind of filth that's happened with the money going everywhere. So I think that it's going to be an easier lift for me, and I resonate with people. They understand what I'm saying. And that's what I'm going to be explaining to them, and I'm sure they're going to be coming my way. I hear it every day.
Round 9 to Greg Bishop.
Specific questions for each candidate. Mr. Dabrowski, you've argued for repealing the Safety Act, the Trust Act, sanctuary policies. What would you replace them with, and how would you respond to critics who say that could lead to civil rights challenges or other legal challenges?
Look, we've been a mess. I've written a lot about this. We've been the murder capital. Chicago has been the murder capital of the country for 14 straight years. It's most total murders. And it doesn't matter. We're happy now, quote, we're happy now that it's gone from 800 murders to 400 murders. It's a disaster here. So my whole goal in getting rid of the Safety Act is you have to put the victims first. Right now, those laws put the criminals first. That's why they're always out. you look at every story that CWB Chicago covers, it's about some criminal who should have been behind bars, who's been arrested multiple times, multiple felonies, and they're still out. So we have to get rid of it. That's a safer Illinois. That's a safer Chicago. On the sanctuary laws, we have to get rid of them entirely. We have to, again, take care of our own people. We see stories over and over again of people who've been hurt or killed by illegal immigrant criminals that shouldn't be here. Those are crimes that should have never happened. So I think that we're on great ground to get rid of it. Look at the other states, right? Look at a place like Florida or Tennessee or Indiana. They have their local law enforcement work with federal law enforcement. They hand over bad guys directly from the local jail in handcuffs to the federal authorities. Why don't we? We are the extreme ones because we have a law that says local law enforcement is prohibited from working with federal law enforcement. I want to bring back normal, and that's what normal is. Thank you.
Mr. Heidner, your private sector careers focused on property and housing. What's your plan to address Illinois' housing affordability challenges, especially for first-time home buyers and seniors on fixed incomes?
Well, I'd love to see on the seniors, us freezing their real estate taxes so that they don't have to pay more and more and more. They're retired, they're on fixed incomes, and if they live too long, they lose their homes. It's absolutely insanity. My children came to me about, the kids, first-time home buyers. They're saying, Dad, our friends are telling us we don't think we're ever going to be able to buy a home. And so I thought to myself, what a wonderful thing if we could do this. If we want to invest in our community, this is a great way to invest. All first-time home buyers. If they save money, the kids that my kids know, a lot of them actually work for me, and they make between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. A lot of them go back home and live. If they save some money, and let's say they save $25,000 and they save $15,000 and they save $10,000 and they go buy a $200,000 townhome or first home and they put $50,000 down and they're making $75,000 a year. I want to put a program together so they don't have to pay income tax just that 1 year on that $50,000. And that goes for any first-time home buyer. I think that becomes better citizens. I think that helps everyone want to save and want to put money down on their homes. And again, it's just the first time. And the first thing I'm going to do when I become governor, after I get that implemented any way that I possibly can, is go to President Trump and ask him to do the same thing federally.
Thank you. Next for Sheriff Mindrick, you've never held statewide office and you describe yourself as a political outsider. But how would you build relationships with legislative leaders and both parties to negotiate complex issues?
So that's something I already do. Again, I'm in the second biggest county in the state. I've worked with legislation with the Illinois Sheriff's Association, the National Sheriff's Association. It's just part of my job. As a police, we've tried to get involved in all this legislation. In fact, I begged Harmon and Slaughter and those guys who made that terrible Safety Act, please just add in remand for rehabilitation. With our recidivism rates coming down, we're a proven entity that we can solve the problem and we can save money by turning your walking crime waves into tax-paying vocational workers, which I'll tell you, everyone's going to college, but even my 26-year-old son, he's got a master's in economics. Great job, smart kid. I think the kid would be a perfect employee, but he's on like his 200th job application with no response yet. College provides you no path to career. We've taken vocational workers, and when I go in the city, because so much of my jail population does come from our neighbors in Cook County, it just is, I'm well known in Chicago, and when I go out there, that's always the talk. It's about rehabilitation. We're about to start. We've got a guy named Larry the barber from Chicago who's about to start a barber shop in our jail. So, I already have relationships in the city that nobody else has, but my relationships aren't something that I started over the last year to run for governor. My relationships are of 30 years of public safety performance experience, 30 years of guarding and helping people be safe in this state.
Thank you very much, Mike.
At this point in the debate, we need to pause for just a moment so that we can meet our FCC requirement to properly identify that you are listening to the 2026 Republican debate on AM 560, The Answer, WIND, Chicago. Greg?
Next round is the same question for all the candidates, and this deals with if you were to win the primary and take the office of governor, you would have another couple of years of working with President Donald Trump. How would you approach that in a state like Illinois dominated by Democratic politics? We'll start with Mr. Heidner.
So I think that would be absolutely wonderful, to be honest with you, because President Trump and I are very like-minded. We both have a huge business sense. He's taken the country and he's put it on a great path of us having success. And that's what I want to do with the state of Illinois. So, my first thing would, like I was saying, I want to reach out to the president. I want to have him help us here in Illinois. I want to do a lot of the same things that he's done with the country. I want to do here in Illinois to build business. And I'm 100% sure that we'll talk the same language. I've had some of the Trump children at my home for fundraisers and things. I've sat with them for 40, 45 minutes, just my family and I with them, and very like-minded in a lot of ways, and also seeing all the struggles that people are having. So I think it'd be wonderful, unbelievably wonderful, if I was governor, to have a wonderful relationship with the president and with the administration. And I think that would help us. I saw J.B. Pritzker on TV, jogging and saying, he helped our credit rating 10 times. What he forgets to tell you is he took billions and billions and billions of dollars from Biden, when he was here, and he counts that. And what did he do? He ends up taking the money, and then he ends up spending more money.
Your time's up.
And then when he doesn't get the money, he just charges us.
Mr. Heidner, thank you very much. Next for Mr. Mindrick. Sheriff Mindrick, same question. How would you work with the Trump administration?
The first day I would call and say, President Trump, you got a governor who wants to work with you. I mean, it's that simple. That's how we get things done. Our governor should be working with our president. We got 92 jails, 92 within this state. If we just let ICE have access to 92 jails, the raids would be over. That's why they blame Trump for these raids. They're not Trump's fault. They're not Homan's fault. They're not the federal government's fault. They're J.B. Pritzker raids, folks. Don't get it confused. If J.B. Pritzker would allow us to let our federal component in our jails, they would turn into a reactive transport unit. They would not be proactive going into the city being docs trying to get 15 people. They'd be getting 250 people out a week. When we call, it's called an ICE hold. 3 days. After 3 days, the feds have to pay full boat reimbursement if they don't pick them up. That means they have to do weekly pickups. 92 jails, a state that's 7 hours long. The raids are over, pal. Guess what? You know what we'll do with them? We'll work with those federal components. If you have a rapist or murderer that's an actual target in the city, we'll blend you into one of our task forces. We'll help you get your target without collateral damage while you can do your pickups in the 92 jails, and you'll get all of this problem taken care of probably in a 40-year period of time. But just by doing what we do, making them a reactive pickup unit, they'd probably have to add. Now this, I know government and I know law enforcement budget and head count, they'd need probably 20% more people with ICE just to do the pickups. We would change the face of this and change the sanctuary city's status within a year.
And Mr. Dabrowski, same question to you. How would you work with the Trump administration?
All right. First of all, number one, I would sign the school choice bill that he put in the big, beautiful bill immediately. Number one. Pritzker refuses to do it. I will. Number two, immediate cooperation with Trump on illegal immigrants. Immediate, right? No question about it. Number three, no tax on tips. Pritzker refused to do Trump's no tax on tips. We'll do it. And also, we'll work with Trump on crime. I really think that the big ambition has to be that we get Chicago to be a safe city, not just one with less crime. And I'll leave it right there. Oh, and I'm sorry, manufacturing. We have to bring manufacturing here. It's fascinating, by the way. This economy of Pritzker's has increasingly become one of a vice economy. He's doing marijuana. He's doing, of course, more gambling. They've proposed to do of course, the prostitution is next. That's how they're growing their budget. And they need you to do more of it so that there's more revenues for the budget. That's what's so perverse about it. So we need to move away from that and do manufacturing. And I spoke to the technology TMA, Technology Manufacturing Association today, and they have amazing companies that do amazing value-added work with huge salaries for people that do that kind of work. That's the kind of economy we need to build, not one built on vices. Thank you.
Next round is specific questions for each candidate. Mike?
We'll start the questioning with Mr. Dabrowski. You spent nearly 2 decades in international banking before entering public policy work. What experience in banking has prepared you for what many see as a vastly different field of leading state government?
It's great. So I did 6 years in Mexico, and I got to help open up the financial markets and do different products in Mexico, and it was a fascinating experience. But my one in Poland was amazing. So I got there in 1998, 9 years after the wall came down. And you have to remember, Poland was destroyed, right? It was destroyed in rubbles in Warsaw. Individual rights were taken away. The economy was in shambles. There was no economic freedom. Private property was destroyed. I got there 9 years later, and I got to work side by side with the amazing Polish population, and we worked together, and I did my small part, and I had a pretty decent role in Poland, but I did my small part to help that country become now one of the most amazing countries in the world. It's growing fast. It's catching up with Japan. It's catching up with England in terms of what do you call it? GDP per capita. Amazing growth. And that's what I got to do. And I worked with the government. I worked with major corporations. I helped restructure the rail company, the airline company. I did that kind of work, running the businesses. And that's why I know that if people like us can unite, if people like them, I should say, can unite and fix Poland, guess what? We can unite and fix Illinois.
The question next is for candidate Heidner. You have been asked this question before and answered, but we thought we would ask it again here in this public forum tonight. Your business dealings, especially in 2020 and 2021, have drawn scrutiny because of some of the individuals that you may have worked with in the past. To be clear, you were never charged with a crime, and you long denied any wrongdoing in that or any of your name appearing in search warrants in 2019 tied to disgraced ex-politicians Marty Sandoval and Jeff Tobolski. Should voters have any doubts about your integrity if you serve as governor?
Great question. Thank you. So, yeah, believe me, if I would have done anything, they went up my rear end like you can't believe, all right? If I would have done anything, they did everything in their power to destroy me and my family. I did absolutely nothing wrong, all right? And people I do business with, and they didn't find anything that I do business with the people that I do that they did something wrong that would affect me. So, you know, it's a difficult situation for me to talk about because, you know, I was attacked, you know, because of optics, and it was kill Rick Heidner, kill Rick Heidner, kill Rick Heidner, because it looked bad for the governor, all right? And they did everything they could, again, to destroy me and my family. And, you know, Sandoval doesn't come with a sign on his head that says, you know, I'm a criminal, all right? Tobolski didn't either, all right? And you know, I gave donations to politicians, and they, in the search warrant, they wanted to look for gold rush or anything. They found nothing. They found nothing because I never asked anybody ever to do something for something. I never did. And they didn't ask me. Well, almost none did, okay? But I never did anything for anything, and I would never do that. I've always run my businesses unbelievably clean, all right? I built them from absolutely nothing to, you know, well over $1 billion of business. And I'm proud of that. And I don't like being attacked with it, but that's
Thank
that's
you,
the way
candidate Heidner. Candidate Mendrick, Sheriff Mendrick, you were the first candidate to enter the 2026 race, choosing not to seek another term in DuPage County. Should voters statewide see that as a sign of readiness for the next challenge or political ambition?
Believe me, I didn't want to be governor. This is all about a sheriff watching law enforcement lose their ability to keep you safe. I have watched our state being cored. We have the best rehabilitative services, and we adhere to the law. You know why we don't have street takeovers in DuPage? The first day they tried that in DuPage, you know, with the blocking off the intersections, EMS can't get through. Our solution to that was 2 squad cars, 2 squad cars, 2 squad cars, 2 squad cars, arrest everything in the middle and impound all the cars. When all of mom and dad's cars got taken away and impounded for thousands of dollars, guess what? We didn't have any more. But they have them in Chicago next door because they don't empower their police. And they do this with laws. They do this with the Safety Act, with the Sanctuary State. They exacerbate each other. They crucify their police every single time that anything goes, and they empower the criminals. The criminals tell us they know they're going to be out in 2 hours. They know a bond court's going to allow it. I could sell you as a drug dealer a brick of fentanyl right now, get busted, and I'll be out as soon as I see a bond court judge to go poison your children. Because street life, folks, you lose a brick of fentanyl, you owe your dealer 3. Now I got to sell 3. I'm going to poison your children. I'm going to OD you, but I'm not considered a threat to society. That's the law. That's why I'm running for governor, because I can't take it anymore. It's either this or move out of the state, and I won't leave. I won't run with tail under legs. I will fight for the safety of this state.
Our next round is with Greg Bishop.
And the same question for each candidate. This about Illinois energy. Governor J.B. Pritzker has pushed for so-called green energy policies, including closing of coal-fired power plants and natural gas plants by 2035 and 2040. What approach would you take as governor when it comes to Illinois' energy policies? And we'll start with Sheriff Mindrick.
I am so glad I get to go first on this one. This is one of the things I've researched, because what I did, again, I went to 87 counties, and I started talking to all the agriculture people, developing a coalition of people who could tell me what to do. And you know what? Small farmers and big farmers have completely different things. How about a regressive estate tax that when you transfer your farm to anybody, a big chunk of your generational wealth gets taken? Not to mention your regular estate tax, you hit the $4 million mark. It's horrible to see these poor farmers have to diversify everything they have. You know, give the kids the tractors. I have the farm, so I don't hit that $4 million mark. You know, the federal government changed that to $14 million, which that's what I would do first day. Change that estate tax to $14 million so we don't kill our fledgling farms, because that's what you're doing. Again, corn and soy need to be made to make ethanol. We need to open up our coal mines. We have 500 years of coal all over Illinois, and now there's these things called scrubbers that make it the most cleanest energy source you could have. Nuclear is great, and that's what Pritzker's talking about, mobile reactors, all that. Get that, great stuff, gonna be great. 8 years off, folks. That is 8 years off. And guess what? Solar and wind, the turbines are leaking oil. Their harmonics affect bats and any kind of marine life that use sonar in their biology. You have the carbon and all the materials coming off, especially weather events. And if you sign a contract, a farmer, with the solar panel company, they have an invested interest in your property. When you sell it, they get first dibs at that. That is how we are giving up our agriculture, and we are killing our farms. We need to start helping agriculture. That's like 75% of our state.
Mr. Dabrowski, how would you approach energy in Illinois?
Yeah, so I think I'd start by saying they are crazy. They have shut down our coal. They have shut down our natural gas. They've told us that they're going to be able to produce all kinds of wind and solar, and they can't. And how do you know they can't? Because they just passed another bill this year buying $8 billion worth of batteries so that they can, quote, store that power. It's crazy, and it's not going to work. And so I think I'm going to call an emergency crisis, an energy crisis. And what we'll do is we will continue to produce coal, we'll continue to produce natural gas, because we will not take that power away from you or let your power bill spike like they've already done. In one of my trips to Southern Illinois, I got to go to the Nighthawk coal mine. Amazing. I went deep down inside it. And what I found out is all that coal that was coming out, 90% of it is going, guess where? Out of state. But then guess what happens with this crazy laws they pass? How much of the two-thirds of Illinois, the bottom two-thirds of Illinois, how much of the energy that we're importing now is based on coal? 80%. So we're shipping it out and bringing the energy back in that's based on coal. It makes no sense. We've got to protect our energy sources. We've got to protect those jobs, and we got to stop the craziness.
And Mr. Heidner, how would you approach energy policy in the land of Lincoln?
Well, first of all, the data centers and the AI centers, you know, they all should be paying more for the electricity than we are, and not passing it all down to the small businesses and to the residents. That's insane to me. So for that, they should be paying more. Our coal industry is such a huge part of our state. I mean, to take any of that away was insanity. And I like to tell people, I was born in 1960. I'm 65 years old. With the green energy and all this stuff, I was supposed to be dead when I was 20. I was supposed to be dead in 2000 when I was 40. All of us were supposed to be dead by 2020. So it isn't happening, all right? It isn't happening. We have to use our resources and be self-sufficient. We can't keep just doing crazy stuff that doesn't work. I am a proponent of the small nuclear, energy plants, because I tell people it's like cars. In the 60s and in the early 70s, we were getting 6-7 miles to the gallon. So now you say nuclear and people get nervous, but they've come so far. They've come so far, and small plants, small units will actually be able to give us energy, a lot of energy. But what we need to do is take our resources and just let everybody use what we have and make money and produce.
Thank you. Mike?
Our final question for the candidates tonight, before closing statements, is just a quick one, and we will start with Mr. Heidner. Who inspired you to run?
Well, a couple things happened and inspired me to run. One, I've always gone along and just basically said, okay, what's going on? Who's running? How much do I owe? And I got to figure out how to pay it, right? And what happened was, the biggest reason I ran was because I kept seeing all these people hurt, and my heart and my soul just kept saying, Rick, you can't keep letting this happen. You can't keep letting this happen. A silly, a crazy one. When the pickup truck backs into Louis Vuitton, right, and smashes through, and 15 people run out of cars and steal. I heard it was $700,000 of stuff. And then everybody takes off. They kill a young man at 5 o'clock in the morning that was going to work at Northwestern Hospital, that was on the last day of work before maternity leave. And the very next day, his baby's born, and he's dead. And if they would have done something and put these people in jail, not the same ones maybe that robbed Louis Vuitton, but the 6 or 8 times that it got robbed, if they would have done something about it, that poor boy might be alive. That boy might be alive. All of this. And then when the session was going, the last session, is everything about how much more we're going to charge you, 45 more cents here, and, on the toll, and charge you on your garbage, and for a bonfire, for crying out loud. It just made no sense to me. So I just said, I just have to do this. I didn't want to do this either. I'm like Sheriff Mendrick. It's
Mr. Heidner, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heidner. Mr. Sheriff Mendrick, who inspired you to run?
I was inspired to run by the statewide local law enforcement. That's who talked me into running. I had all the cops, all the sheriffs, all the policemen, firemen, EMS saying they can't take it anymore. They can't take, we've all been rendered inert. I have been endorsed by the Illinois Sheriff's PAC. I have the support of all of the sheriffs within this within this state. That's why I'm running. I'm running because I'm here to fix the safety in this state, to make it safe for your kids to go out to the park again, to go to school again, to not go into Chicago. How many people in here at 10 p.m. at night will go walk through Chicago by yourself? Yeah, see?
6 p.m.
Yeah. So, and while J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson called law enforcement a sickness to be eradicated, bootlickers and thugs, that is so demoralizing as they atrophy my profession. I am the police. I am law enforcement. I will protect you. I will make crime illegal again. I will stop all of this nonsense that's going on.
Please hold your applause.
I will audit every single system that touches a 001. Digital forensics units will be a word that everybody knows when they see everybody going to jail for felony theft that starts at $300, not $308 million. They are going to be held accountable. That is why I'm doing this. I am doing this to stop the chaos.
And candidate Dabrowski, who inspired you to run?
I get a lot of my inspiration from my parents, and I talk about them a lot because they mean so much to me. My mom was an immigrant from Ecuador. She came when she was a 19-year-old, and she came right to Chicago, right here, because this is where freedom and opportunity could be found. My father escaped communist Poland, and he too came right to Chicago, to Illinois. And, and they met on the L. They had this amazing, amazing story. They met on the L, and this is where they could create their American dream. And so I think about them, and I got to travel the world, as you know, and I've come back. I came back after being gone for quite a while, and came back in 18 years ago to Illinois. And it's like, what happened to that? What happened to that amazing state that was a beacon? Oh, by the way, you guys think, and my parents came here legally, okay, and they're both became citizens. So just be done with that. But they came here. It was amazing, right? And so we've got to get back to that. Now, we're a young immigrant family, and we figured out how to make it. And everybody should have that opportunity. So I think about that. But my other inspiration is my experience in Poland, as I mentioned before. It's amazing if people can unite and fight against authoritarians, against this kind of stuff that Pritzker does, this craziness. If you unite, you can win, and we can do that by uniting all of us together. Thank you.
Well, our time is almost up, so we will now move to closing statements. We will once again start with Mr. Dabrowski. You have 60 seconds for your closing statements.
Some of you may have seen the Wall Street Journal article that was written about me, I guess a week ago or so. And it's a very nice article, and I thank them for doing that. And they called me a data crusader trying to save Illinois. And the point of that article, I think, is that I've been doing this for a long time. I have dedicated the last 15 years, well, even more, of my life to Illinois policy. I didn't pay attention to national policy. Of course, you pay attention to it, but I didn't do that. I have been dedicated to fixing this state and making it a better state for all of you. And that's, I think, what was captured there. Look, 10 years ago, even more, I pushed a 401k style plan for all new workers, and I drew up the legislation, I drew up the plan, and I gave it to Jeannie Ives, and she filed it. That's how long I have been doing this. 8 years ago, I was in Harvey, and I was and I was with Jeannie again. I was warning about Harvey going bankrupt. Just a month ago, they are asking for a state bailout.
Thank you for
This
your
is how
time.
long I've been doing this.
Your time's up. I appreciate that. Mr. Heidner, 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you very much. I want to become governor. I want to come in here. I want to fix. I want to get rid of the sanctuary state. I want to get rid of the Safety Act. I want to do everything I can to keep everybody safe. It's an insanity what's going on here. Then what I want to do is I want to build business. I want us to become the new Florida, the new Texas. Everybody should be coming here. Instead, everybody's leaving here. They're leaving here because they're not safe. They're leaving here because they're taxed to death. They're leaving here because they're being forced out. We need to build. We need to bring business. We need to make this state into an unbelievable, growing. Our Midwest, we should be the apple of the Midwest the way we always were. We have the most beautiful lakefront, the most beautiful city, and it's all being ruined. I want to fix it. I want everybody to be safe, and then I want to hand it back over to whoever else can do it after me.
Sheriff Mindrick, your closing statement.
So I like to make sure that all questions get answered when we do debates. A lot of times things that people are interested sometimes slip by. I just want to go over a quick list. I believe in full voter integrity. And again, that's paper ballots, folks, paper ballots. I'm pro 2A. A piece of plastic spit out on a hot plate does not give you your constitutional rights to bear arms. You already have those in your Constitution. I'm pro school choice, pro-life, pro homeschooling. I'm against anything that deals with sexuality with our children. Let our kids be kids. I'm going to protect your land against foreign interests, eminent domain, any combative entity of America, and take away any kind of holding they have. I will eliminate the sanctuary state. I will dismantle the Safety Act. There will be a full forensics audit of everything that is in a statewide budget system, and I will be the first governor to come out of a jail instead of going into one. Thank you very much.
Well, our time for the gubernatorial debate is up. We want to thank each of the candidates who chose to participate tonight, and we will be taking a short break before we transition into our Senate debate. And as we do, please give the candidates a round of applause.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings inviting you to join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening this November 2026. Imagine it, turquoise waters, white sand, beaches, incredible food, and insightful conversations about the future of our great country. Mike Gallagher and I will dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Text cruise to 94878 or visit scottjenningsshow.com and click the cruise banner to sign up today.
If you'd like a smartphone that's really smart, download the oneplace.com app, the app that will inspire your faith daily and provide answers to the biggest questions of all. OnePlace lets you download your favorite pastor's programs and listen, even offline or in airplane mode, with easy connections to your Bluetooth speaker or dashboard. To download your free OnePlace app, visit the iTunes App Store or the Google Play Store for your Android device and search for OnePlace. That's OnePlace.
She's unafraid and unapologetic. She's Laura Trump, and she's shaking things up on the Right View podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
We're now in a midterm election year, and the Democrats, I think, are panicking. They have very little to run on. The faces of their party now are socialists. Democrats, I think, are probably looking at Tim Walz and they're like, we don't need the distraction of another failed Democrat.
Subscribe to the Right View podcast with Laura Trump on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
Salem Surround. Meet with a digital marketer today for ideas that will make your business stand out. Visit salemsurround.com.
The mainstream media wants to divide Americans into neat little groups, and they want you to believe that everyone in each one of those groups thinks alike. John Anthony is here to blow up that lie. Join him for Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4, when he provides a different perspective on what it means to be black and right. This Saturday afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560. The Answer. Voice for the new right, charting a new path forward for American conservatism. It's the Josh Hammer Show, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Is this going to explode into 2020? For a while, it looked like that was not going to be the case. Increasingly, I am less confident. They're not stopping. They are being aided and abetted by willful idiot, neo-Confederate insurrectionist politicians like the coward in the Twin Cities, Tim Walz.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before, since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting, we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, The Dragon's Prophecy, combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza, now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes.
This is Carol Platt-Liebel for townhall.com. Americans just got a revealing glimpse of what Democrats have in mind if they reclaim power. On a recent podcast, Obama National Security Advisor Susan Rice warned big tech, law firms, media outlets, companies, and universities that Democrats won't forgive and forget those who cooperate with President Donald Trump. The left won't play by the old rules, she announced. How ironic. The same crowd that constantly calls Trump an authoritarian is now openly threatening political retribution. Rice's threats aren't hypothetical. During the Biden administration, federal officials strong-armed tech companies to suppress disfavored speech. J.P. Morgan has just admitted to debanking Trump and some supporters, hardly a coincidence in today's regulatory climate. Meanwhile, Rice's former boss, Barack Obama, speaks loftily about unity and coming together. Nice words, but Americans have seen too much to believe them.
Now, more of the 2026 Republican debate, live from Benedictine University in Lisle. Once again, here are your moderators, Mike Scott and Greg Bishop.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Welcome back to the Republican debates here in Lisle at Benedictine University. We are live tonight. We just concluded a 90-minute debate with candidates for governor of the state of Illinois. Now we begin our debate with candidates for the U.S. Senate. I will introduce each of the candidates one at a time, and I will ask you to please, again, hold your applause until all of the candidates are introduced. First, Casey Chlebek is a proud Polish immigrant who came to America with his family in 1967. Upon completing his education, he has spent his career working in information technology for companies as varied as Alden's, Zenith Radio Corporation, and the Northern Trust Bank. He now runs a real estate management firm. Casey Chlebek. Next, Pamela Denise Long is an organizational development consultant and serves as senior executive with Youth-Centric Therapy Services. She also holds a doctorate of education. Next, Carrie Caparelli is president of Omni Communique Incorporated. He's also earned a doctorate in geography from the University of London. Next, Don Tracy has been an attorney for several decades and is senior counsel at Brown, Hay & Stevens. He served in leadership positions in several civic and Illinois professional organizations, including chairman of the Illinois Republican Party. He attended law school at the University of Memphis. Finally, Jeannie Evans is an attorney. Currently, she is a partner and trial lawyer with the law firm of Higgins, Berman, and Sobel and Shapiro. Previously, she was co-founder and partner at the firm of Agrawal Evans and was an associate with Kirkland and Ellis. She is a graduate of Brigham Young University and Harvard Law School. Please give a round of applause to our candidates. And with that, I would like to ask you to withhold any further spontaneous expressions of support until the end of tonight's event. That means no matter how much you like or dislike the candidates' responses, please hold your applause until the very end of the debate. We want to give all the candidates as much time as we can to answer questions. Tonight, we begin with opening statements from our candidates. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for opening statements. We determined prior to tonight's event that Mr. Chlebek will go first. Your opening statement, sir.
Good evening. I'm honored to be with you tonight. I'm Casey Chlebek, and I'm running for the United States Senate. I am running because our country faces many serious challenges: plummeting affordability, ever-rising taxes, rising costs of common goods such as food, housing, and healthcare. When elected, I will change it all with my very bold initiative agenda of MAGNA, making America the greatest nation again, the 7-pillar agenda. I'm running because I have a unique experience being raised on the communists, and I witnessed the communists at hand. And I want to relate to America that we have here an offshoot of communism called cultural Marxism. This may not kill you by bullets or starvation as it did in some other countries, but it kills our new generations with very toxic and corrosive ideologies which not just kill families, but even maybe our society.
Thank you, Mr. Chlebick, for that opening statement. We appreciate it. Ms. Long.
My name is Dr. Pamela Denise Long. I've been a Republican since 2008. I'm a former Newsweek contributor and media commentator and policy analyst about what Americans First looks like beyond it being a beautiful slogan, but for it to be policy. I've done a lot of consulting in Washington, D.C. Over the last couple of years. I spent about 12 visits there, talking about what it means to have immigration moderation, talking about what it means to have a native-born labor sourcing plan, talking about what it means to put Americans first. I've had a robust career over the last 30 years in healthcare, pre-K through 12 education, academia, where I saw the impacts of DEI. As a matter of fact, I was invited to lead a debate at MIT. I'm the only person on either side of the aisle who has been directly involved with getting men out of women's sports and having our institutions of higher education be a place where students are taught to think critically rather than indoctrinated. I look forward to talking with you, and I'd appreciate your support.
Mr. Caporelli.
Hi, my name is Kerry Caporelli. I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I'm going to tell you who I am. I've been self-employed for about 35 years, president of my own global management marketing company. When that career ended, I co-owned and operated a vineyard in Argentina. And since 2017, I've been teaching geography, critical geographies, at South Dakota State University online. It's all important because later I'm going to tell you that foreign policy is our single most important issue. I'm also probably the only candidate could say here that has worked directly with governmental agencies in the Soviet Union and former communist Poland. Thank you.
Mr. Tracy.
Well, first of all, thank you AM 560 and Greg and Mike for doing this. My name is Don Tracy. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I've been practicing law in Illinois for more decades than I care to admit. I co-own a successful family business with my 11 brothers and sisters in Illinois. When I was younger, I owned and operated my own small business and had to make payroll sometimes when I couldn't afford it. Although I am not a career politician, I have significant political experience and governing experience. I have served as a precinct committeeman. I was elected twice as chairman of the Illinois Republican Party. I've run for office a couple of times. I was a Trump delegate twice, and I served as chairman of the Illinois Gaming Board for almost 5 years. If I'm elected as your next U.S. Senator, I will represent your interest in Washington, not special interest.
And Ms. Evans.
I'm Jeannie Evans. I'm a conservative Republican running for United States Senate to replace Dick Durbin. I'm a political outsider. I graduated from Harvard Law School, and I've spent my career as a lawyer taking on powerful corporations to level the playing field for small businesses and to bring down prices for American families. I've recovered billions of dollars for Americans. My husband and I have been married for 32 years. We've raised our family on the south side of Chicago. Our 4 children have attended Chicago public schools, and we've been active in our Christian church community. I have unfortunately seen the devastating impact of crime, and I am committed to supporting law enforcement to make our communities safer and more prosperous. I'm ready to work for you. Thank you.
And our first question tonight comes from Greg Bishop.
This will be the same question for each of the candidates, and we'll start with candidate Long. Election integrity is a priority of President Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress. How would you ensure voters trust our elections, and how do you get that across to opponents of the Save America Act?
Yeah, so one of the first articles I wrote for my Newsweek column was about how voter ID is patriotic. The subtitle for that is "It Protects Black Americans, and Here's Why I Wrote It That Way." There are ways in which liberals have said that Black folk are not smart enough or resourced enough to get identification. And I know many Black Americans who are very sick of liberals using us to be a spearhead of their nonsense. I absolutely think that any person who shows up at a poll should have their ID with them. And if people are struggling financially to get that, that's called a tax write-off and or a grant, right? There's ways to make it happen. We don't have a constitutional republic if we cannot be confident in who shows up to vote and the outcomes of who shows up to vote. The way that I handle that with liberals is, if you haven't noticed, I'm a Black American woman. So when they try that crap with me on the stage, I'll be able to hand it to them and say, I don't know a Black American who doesn't have ID, and I don't know one who doesn't know how to get it. And more than that, why don't we solve the problem rather than relying on their new voter base, which is illegal aliens?
Candidate Caporelli, the question to you. How would you ensure voters trust elections, and how would you get that message across to those who oppose efforts in Congress?
I have a short and concise answer. I'm 100% for voter ID because it's necessary. I personally have experienced voter fraud when I ran for a Metropolitan Water District about 10 years ago, and I saw it firsthand. So the average citizen's not going to see it or realize it, but it does exist.
Candidate Tracy, same question to you.
Every state should have voter ID. The SAVE Act would do that, but unfortunately, it takes 60 votes to get that passed, and the Democrats will never agree to it without a lot of pressure. Voter ID is an 80-20 issue. So we have got to pressure the Democrats into agreeing to it. One response to voter, there's no justification for not having voter ID unless you're trying to cheat. What they will say to you is that voter ID will suppress voting. And yes, it will. It will suppress illegal voting. Tough. That is one of the most important things, but there are so many things wrong with Illinois in terms of election integrity. I appointed the first election integrity director for the Illinois State Party and the first election integrity committee. They're working very hard on it. We're getting better at it, but we need to eliminate counting ballots 14 days after. We need to eliminate same-day voter registration. We need to reduce voting by mail to just absentee voting like we used to have it. And we need to eliminate ballot harvesting in Illinois. Otherwise, pretty soon we'll have armies of people going from, door to door. There is so much work to be done, but we are doing better. Nationally, we're doing better at it, but we've got to pressure the Democrats to agree to voter ID.
Candidate Evans, same question to you.
Thank you. I agree with so much of what has been said. It is so important that we have faith in our elections and our electoral process. The United States should have the most fair and transparent elections in the world. And what I would say to Democrats who disagree is that, whether it's one or multitudes of voter fraud incidents, none is okay. We need to continue to investigate instances of fraud and correct them. We need to clean up the voter rolls. We need to take steps to make sure that every vote counts and each person only gets one vote. And I also support voter ID. It is important that only people who are qualified to vote get the vote, and I would support efforts for voter ID. Thank you.
And Candidate Klebleck?
Definitely, I'm very much for voter IDs, and I think in order even to improve the system, we should establish a holiday on which we are voting. And just like President Trump indicated in the State of the Address, we have, again, a lot of fraud situations, mail-in, early voting. But having said that, I want to stress that we should still allow for early voting and mail-in voting under certain circumstances, because sometimes it is warranted. But nonetheless, we should make sure that we try and make every effort possible that we count for every vote. We see situations many times where actually number of votes coming into mailbox is greater than number of registered voters. That's definitely a sign of a fraud. So let's try to do the best we can, and just like we have driver licenses, let's have real voter IDs. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's just stick with the fact that we probably should have a holiday. And I think that would be probably the most transparent and honest election if we take that approach.
Next round of questions coming from Mike Scott.
Candidates, where would your foreign policy decisions differ from the White House on Ukraine, Gaza, the Middle East, or elsewhere, and how would you articulate? And this round of questioning starts with Mr. Caporelli.
First of all, the president and his staff obviously know more about these situations than we do here because there's intelligence available to them. So per se, I would support whatever the president wants and says, and I think I would be able to assist him further with my knowledge of in foreign policy from having businesses overseas and studying overseas and working overseas. I have a pretty good understanding of how foreign governments work, and hopefully I could assist the president and give him some direction and thought. Thank you.
Candidate Tracy.
I certainly support the president's peace through strength doctrine, which is similar to the Reagan doctrine. I support the president's limited military strikes, such as arresting Maduro in Venezuela, taking out the Iranian nuclear facilities, taking out Soleimani, taking out Baghdadi. I support the president's support for Israel. Every country has a right to self-defense. And Israel is a tremendous ally of ours. But I also support the president's efforts to gain a ceasefire in Gaza. He's ended that war. He's ended about 8 different wars. The president is opposed to endless wars, as am I. And I support the president's efforts to end the Ukraine war. We must not let Putin win the Ukraine war. And I especially support the efforts to get Europe to walk the talk. They talk tough about defense, but they're not putting their money where their mouth is. And we need to have Europe step up. And I support continuing to provide Ukraine with arms, selling them and providing and making sure that they're accountable for those arms and whatever else we do for them.
Candidate Evans, the same question. If at all, where would your foreign policy decisions differ from the White House, and how would you articulate that?
Yeah, let me kind of lay out my foreign policy views a little bit and show, where they align with our president. We have been blessed in America and the world really with relative stability since World War II, where we've had an order where powerful countries do not take over and attack and small countries just because they can, because they're powerful. We've had strong structures in place with NATO and our allies to prevent that, and it's led to greater peace and less spending on military, and that's been great. And so with the Russian attack of Ukraine, it's threatening that order, and our president and America and the world has tried to hold the line on Ukraine. I know there are people in America who think, why are we spending money in Ukraine? But really, the people of Ukraine are putting their lives on the line to hold this barrier, to protect this world order. And what our president has done in supplying arms to Ukraine is really the least we can do, because if Russia could take Ukraine, they might start trying to take other countries. We'd have more battlefronts, and it could make the whole world more unstable and cost us more in the long run. It's also so important to hold the line between China and Taiwan. So if Russia took Ukraine, that could embolden China to try to be aggressive against Taiwan. And Taiwan is a strategically very important country for production of semiconductor chips, but also as a line, as a protection of the first island chain and a line of defense to the West from aggression from China. It's also incredibly important to protect shipping, the shipping that happens in the South China Sea.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thank you. We have time. And we'll ask the same question to Mr. Chlebek. Where would your foreign policy decisions differ from the White House, if at all, and how would you articulate that?
First of all, I want to tell you, I am a bit disappointed that actually we still have wars going on, both in Ukraine and in Gaza. People are still dying daily, and we are actually maybe days away from another world war, possibly even. It's the second time in the same country. I don't take it lightly. We should stop that. And to make the point, my major platform of my foreign policy is MULA, making U.S. loved again, believed, loved again. And it's really, my pillars stand for PTCS, President Trump calling shots, which is parity, trust, cooperation, and stability. We have to change our way of approaching the world around us. We cannot win by the power and fear. We have to change the mode, because our enemies, The BRICS are really conquering by economic expansion, and we have to do something better. That is, we need to approach with trust as we once had before. And let's move it on forward. And I do believe that President Trump has that capacity and audacity to do that. So President calling shots will ultimately take a hold, because this is not a winning game. He may be good for the next 5 years, whatever, but there will come a moment where we may have serious repercussions from our policies of using power and fear as the tool of foreign diplomacy. Let's start a new beginning with the mullah, making U.S. loved again.
Thank you, candidate. And Ms. Long, your answer to the question, if at all, where would your foreign policy decisions differ from the White House, and how would you articulate that?
So I absolutely believe in the fact that we have to maintain our power and our position on the world stage. You asked me where we differ. First of all, I'm America first. Every time, all the time. And so any monies that we give to foreign entities are investments that we should expect return on, and that needs to be clear. No more wars for our allies. We absolutely destroyed the state of Libya for our allies, and they are literally trading Black people in that country because of our actions. I'm old enough to remember the fact that they told us they were unplugging babies in Iraq, and we found out that was a lie. I want to make sure when we use the strength of our military, we are operating on truth and justice. Another area in which I would differ is I think we need to revisit who's footing the bill with NATO, but we absolutely can't be over here in this hemisphere by ourselves. I'd love to see diplomacy have a significant role there. We need to audit the monies that we're giving to Ukraine and anywhere for that matter. There's a money tree that's shaken in Washington, D.C., and it seems to be shaken over on the other side of the ocean and beneath our borders, and it needs to be taking care of the American people. And if we make an investment in a foreign nation, we need to make sure that we know where every single dollar, every piece of equipment has gone.
Candidates, thank you. Greg Bishop.
Now it's time for specific questions for each candidate, and we'll start with candidate Tracy. You chaired the Illinois Republican Party for several years. What lessons from internal party division did you learn about during your tenure, and how would you shape reaching across and bridging those divisions?
Well, when I was first elected chair of the Illinois Republican Party, I was told one of my missions would be to work on unifying the party, and I thought that would be the easiest job. I thought that would be so much easier than raising money and running the party, and boy, was I naive. There were infighting was breaking out everywhere I looked, and I would intervene in a local county infighting, and then maybe bring some resolution in some way to that, and then another infighting would break out somewhere else. It was like whack-a-mole. Ironically, it does seem like running for this office has given me a platform to unify the party, more so than when I was chair. In fact, assuming I am your nominee and I win this seat from the Democrats, I think that will unify the Republican Party almost more than anything else. And I've been very, very grateful in running for this seat to receive support and endorsements from all over the state. In fact, every single Republican legislator who has endorsed in this race in Illinois has endorsed me. The entire Illinois congressional delegation, unfortunately, there's only 3 of them, but those 3 have endorsed me. I've been endorsed by grassroots organizations like Illinois Family Action, by Carol Davis of the Illinois Conservative Union, which is about election integrity, and the Young Republicans. So I think I will help unify the party.
Thank you.
Just running for this. Thank you.
Candidate Evans, talk a bit about what in your professional career best prepares you for working on behalf of Illinoisans in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I want to answer that question. I just want to briefly respond to what Mr. Tracy said about the endorsements. Mr. Tracy talks about the many endorsements he's gotten. I just want to note that he has been part of the Republican Party. He has given many donations to these candidates who have endorsed him. I am a political outsider. I have not been part of the establishment. I have not made those donations over the years, and I have not received those endorsements. But in terms of raising funds from donors, I have received the endorsement of people donating to my campaign, so I'm very happy about that. In terms of my career, my main work is as an antitrust lawyer. I sue companies for price fixing. So I sue companies for price fixing to promote competition in the markets and bring down prices for consumers. An issue that's very important to voters is affordability. And I have the skills and experience to tackle that in government, to look at anti-competitive structures in healthcare, in energy, in housing, to remove those, to break up monopolies and bring down prices. And I am excited to go to Washington and do that for the American people. I have also in my career, I've sued Chinese companies for stealing our private data and for surveillance of Americans. China is a threat. They're our biggest adversary on the world stage. We have to take them very seriously. And I've been standing up to power. I've been requiring them to produce discovery and lawsuits that are hard fought, and I'm ready to fight for the American people, to bring down prices, to take on China, and to get great results for you.
Candidate Klebeck, having run for the Senate in both 2020 and 2022, what have you learned from those campaigns that makes you a stronger candidate now? You lost both those races. Why do you think you'll win this year?
Very good question. Thank you. I want to let you know, well, first time I ran it was actually a dry run in 2020. And at that time, agenda was MAPA, Make America Proud Again. There was a number of different approaches to my agenda. They were actually crossing the boundaries by basically, they were kind of directed into the same subject of security. The same thing happened actually in my next edition where 2022, I had an agenda of MASA, Making America Safe and Secure, which dealt with just the security issues because it was a difficult situation in 2022. But this time around, I came to a conclusion. I have to come with an agenda that actually crosses the boundaries of both Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. That's why it's something there for everybody. The 7-pillar agenda, which actually is about eliminating property taxes, eliminating IRS taxes on Social Security and on the retirement income, as well as elimination of taxes on young Americans up to the age of 23 and 26 if they are going to college or if they establish families, and for the new businesses, up to 5 years tax-free holiday. This is a core for me because anybody can win in the primaries, but in the general elections, you have to have an idea. Money are not going to win this time around because we have, if I understand, one candidate has $2 million and the opponent has $28 million. That's not going to win. You have to have the agenda which actually lines up with the people.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Candidate Long, what distinguishes your candidacy from other Republicans in the field on issues like public health, disability policy, or elderly care?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I mentioned before that I have a robust 30-year career in healthcare and education. My first career is in occupational therapy. I graduated in 1997, which is hard for me to believe even as I say it. I've worked with youth children who are straight out of NICU. I've worked with elders to help them navigate the healthcare system. My first book was called Retirement Life by Design, and yes, you can, shameless plug, still find it on Amazon. That was designed basically to help caregivers navigate the healthcare system. It's very complex. I don't know if you've ever had an elder in the hospital. Everything moves very quickly. The language is very much over your head. It's very healthcare-ese, acronyms, and the like. So my career helps me to understand at a deep level, both as a practitioner but also as an administrator, the areas in which we will have to regulate as senators. I would love to serve on the HELP committee, that's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. I think there are ways in which I could provide technical assistance to whoever is the governor forerunner of Illinois in terms of how to look at efficiencies and effectiveness in money management where those pension liabilities are taxing us significantly. What other things that distinguish me is that I'm curious by nature. I'm a researcher by nature. I love the data. The reason I have an EDD instead of a PhD is because I am very expert at taking information and turning it into strategy, implementation, and reality.
Mr. Caparelli, you've worked as an international businessman and also a university instructor. How do those experiences shape your approach to trade policy and workforce development?
First of all, I want to qualify myself as being partially political. I was on Illinois Banking and Real Estate Board for 2 years. I was a public member there, and for 10 years I was the board of directors of the Illinois International Port, chaired 3 committees, including Homeland Security. So those political positions allowed me the opportunity to learn how to communicate in a political theater. Being in the world of business world, global business world, you learn how different countries operate and how they do things differently than us. Not everybody does the same thing. I want to make a little comment about the president's tariffs, because I think mainstream media really misinforms the public. America used to be an industrialized country. We no longer are. And what we see now is that the tariffs are starting to take effect, and what we're trying to do is limit Chinese exporting to us. So this is going to force us to manufacture more and create jobs more in America, and I think that should be our goal. I'm all for the tariffs.
Thank you. Mike?
At this point in the debate, we need to pause for just a moment so we can meet our FCC requirement to properly identify that you are listening to the 2026 Republican senatorial debate on AM 560, The Answer, WIND, Chicago. As we head into round 4 candidates, we will have the same question for all candidates on the stage in this round. And this question will focus on energy policy. Energy policy divides this country and even this state. You cannot travel along I-55 between Chicago and St. Louis without seeing solar farms sprouting up alongside 240 acres of soybeans. How do we boost energy production in the short term? And do you feel that nuclear power is the best option, or is there another option? The question first goes to Ms. Evans.
Energy policy, along with talking about energy, we also need to talk about pricing. So one of the problems with energy is that it's getting too expensive. For a lot of people right now, their electric bill is too high, for families, but also for businesses. For small businesses I've talked to in Southern Illinois, it's often just unaffordable. So one of the ways we lower prices of energy and also have a better energy policy is to increase our production of energy. So again, drawing on my background as an antitrust lawyer, the way to reduce prices and to increase quality and innovation is through market competition. We need more supply and more competition. So we need to, like what President Trump wants to do, is use all the sources of supply. The oil, the natural gas, the nuclear, the coal, all the sources we have. The more energy supply we have, companies will be able to innovate, use the type of energy that is best for them. There will be more competition, and prices will come down. And in Trump's State of the Union, he just talked about how kind of an innovative idea to have businesses, in some cases, create their own energy supplies. So all of these things should come to the table. We should be innovating. We've got AI. We've got ways to do better with energy. And so I'm very excited about the future. And part of it is through market competition and increasing our supply.
Up next, Mr. Chlebig. The question again on the floor is energy policy. How do we boost energy production in the short term? And may nuclear be the best option in your opinion?
I must admit that yes, we have to treat seriously the issue of energy, especially when it comes also to conservation of our environment. But if you look at it very carefully, What is the percentage of actually savings that we use by using solar or the wind energy? It's minuscule. I think we have to look at it from a practical perspective that for the moment, still the fossil energy is a dominant force. You know, people go to gas stations where you can charge, but they don't ask the question, well, yet they get electric energy, but actually that energy comes from a plant which is run by fossil fuel. And actually, that's 80% of the situation. So I don't subscribe to this, and we should use it in massive manner because it's an eyesore. And sometimes with this solar farms, I see it almost like we are invading areas where we could cultivate agriculture, etc. We have to use alternatives. Yes, I believe nuclear energy is the best way because this is probably the most cleanest way. Obviously, we're not there yet, but if we develop plasma concept, etc., and bring it to our car in a minuscule form of a nuclear engine, then we are home free. But we're not there yet. We are trying to, I think, rush into some solutions which are temporary. There is room for solar, I don't deny that, but it's not something that we should open with open arms because it's not going to help us. It's going to destroy our environment.
Thank you, candidate. And Ms. Long, the same question to you.
Yeah, so we have to do a better job of implementing the 1970s National Environmental Policy Act. It's a bit of legislation that I've talked quite a bit about in my research. The National Environmental Policy Act basically says that every proposed major federal action should undergo a pre-assessment of the impacts on the people holistically, the human environment, not just rocks, trees, but historically, culturally, financially, and the like. Clean nuclear, absolutely. One of the reasons everything costs so much is we push so far to green that we didn't think about a pre-assessment of what would happen if we pushed too soon. So coal was helping us to keep our energy costs low. It's kind of wild to me that we pushed to green, but now we're importing dirty energy in order to be more green. It doesn't make sense. Actually, the push for electric has been a problem as well. It's been fascinating to me that when California mandated electric cars, within a week they had to draw back on that because everybody was charging their cars and the system couldn't deal with it. So one of the things we need to do is make sure our electrical grid is up to snuff. AI data centers, if you build it, you pay for it. Biofuel of all the sorts, both soy and corn. I want to leverage the R&D that we have with our universities here in Illinois to make that a real thing that doesn't cost more, so it's cost efficient and even costs less in order to do it. No solar on fertile land. There should be a way for us to do that, and I would push for that.
Mr. Caporelli, the same question, please.
Can't have too much energy, and not all types of energy will solve the same problem. So we need all types of energy. Nuclear is one of them. I'd be supportive of such. Petroleum is probably the biggest energy source that we need, and I'm fully for the continued importation of oil, but at the same time, as President Trump would say, drill, baby, drill. We have to drill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caporelli. Mr. Tracy, the same question.
Before answering, you have to respond to Ms. Evans. I guess when you're the front runner, you have to expect to be attacked. And I'm guessing that if you have zero endorsements like Ms. Evans, you have to accuse the person who has approximately 100 endorsements of buying endorsements. I don't know what else you can do, I guess, in that situation.
Please, from the audience.
The problem with Illinois Energy is the Democrats' war on traditional, reliable, affordable energy. They have been closing power plants down to the point that it's the equivalent of 11 nuclear plants, is what we have in Illinois. Nuclear is our future, and I'm glad to see that even the Democrats are starting to see that, and they passed a recent law that paves the way for more nuclear. But in the meantime, we need to stop closing down perfectly good power plants, like the one in Springfield. They closed it down before the bonds were to be paid off initially. They tweaked the bill then and let it go up to the bonds, but they're still wanting to close it down before its useful life. We need an all-of-the-above policy. We cannot go green overnight. And the reasons utility prices are skyrocketing is not so much because of data centers or other excuses the Dems have. It's because they've been shutting down our power plants prematurely. And there's the Power Plant Reliability Act in the federal and Congress, and I support that 100%. It will override these stupid closing power plant laws in Illinois.
Mr. Tracy, thank you. Greg Bishop with the next question.
Should we go to candidate Evans first for that same question? Or
Maybe we should.
Answer energy.
Or did I not start with candidate Evans?
I was energy, but I'm happy to take another.
Okay, my apologies.
No, that's okay.
All right, so next round, same question for all the candidates. Many voters express frustrations with political polarization in Washington. What would you personally do to work across those party lines? And can you cite specific examples from your past experiences that would demonstrate that ability? And we'll start with candidate Long.
Yeah, this is such an important issue. One of the things that I've been calling for in terms of, my public rhetoric as well as the spaces that I facilitate is for Republicans to take the lead. I think we need to remember who we are, and I think in many ways both the elected officials and the constituents have lost the plot. The purpose of this constitutional republic is to make sure that the people's rights are safeguarded, that the people are placed first. We did not develop as a nation without people who vehemently disagreed with each other, coming together in informed free speech, coming together with viewpoint diversity, remembering where we want it to go. And that is a nation where the people's interests are represented. We are charged with forming a more perfect union. It's an evergreen call to action. We can't get there if we're pointing fingers at each other, although I realize how easy it is to do that from time to time. Look, we on the Republican side called out cancel culture, right? When it was happening to our president, getting kicked off Twitter and all of that kind of stuff. We in turn can't be the same thing. How I plan to work with people is realizing we have human beings who have run for office, and I can tell y'all it's a lot of work, who are very afraid of losing their position, who are trying to advocate for people. I will sit down eyeball to eyeball with all 534 other offices and talk to them about the barriers that they're seeing in the communities that they represent, the opportunities they would like to see, and find that 80-20 where we can work together for the best interest of Illinoisans, but also for all Americans.
Candidate Caparelli.
I've learned you can't fix a leftist. It's just not possible. But we could fix our educational system and our mainstream media. We have to educate at a higher level for our youth understands what the truth is, because I see it all the time teaching classes. There's always just common excuses: climate change, social inequity. Students today just have a gross misunderstanding of what's going on, and it gets scary because when they get older, they're just going to vote leftist. So we have to make sure that we improve our educational system and that they're not influenced by these biased instructors. And same thing with mainstream media. It's all, and I think it was Lenin who said at one time that to take over a country into communism, you take over the schools and you take over the journalism. And that's where we could come to a successful end, to not needing to going across the aisle to win votes. We have to fix things in the educational system and in the media.
Mr. Tracy.
Can you give me that question one more time?
Absolutely. What would you do to reach across party lines, and can you cite specific examples in your past that demonstrates that ability?
In the Senate, what I like about the Senate is that it is a more bipartisan unit of government than the House because of the filibuster. It forces a certain amount of bipartisanship. And if you're going to do really big stuff, it needs to be bipartisan. Otherwise, you won't have buy-in, and it won't be as good of a bill. The best example of that is Obamacare, also officially the Affordable Care Act, which I call the Unaffordable Care Act, because that was rammed down our throats. That for a moment in time there, the Democrats had 60 votes. And so they passed it without a single Republican vote. And look at all the problems that Obamacare has caused. I mean, they said you'll keep your plan, you'll keep your doctor, and it will reduce premiums. It's done just the opposite. Healthcare inflation is running at about 3 times a regular inflation. Healthcare expenditures are approaching 18% of GDP and GNP. That is unsustainable. It will bankrupt the nation and it will bankrupt individuals. If that bill had Republicans involved, which it should have, then it would be a better bill. We would have fixed a lot of those problems. We would have come out with something that's a lot better. So the Senate is a more bipartisan duty. As a lawyer, I've had to work with adversaries, and I've had to settle a lot of cases, so I have a lot of experience in dealing with and working with adversaries.
Candidate Evans, what would you personally do to work across party lines, and can you cite specific examples in your past to show that ability?
Yes, I am a conservative Republican. I have been one since a young age. My father read to me from the Federalist Papers as bedtime stories. I am rooted in principles of freedom and free enterprise and free markets. So I'm solid as a Republican, as a conservative. But I know how to live around Democrats. I live on the south side of Chicago. I know how to work with people with different views. I'm a lawyer where I'm constantly litigating against people with very opposed views. And the cases I work on are usually for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, where in the end, they're not going to want to risk it on a jury, and we need to settle these cases. We need to get major policy reforms from companies or from government entities, and I am tough at the negotiation table, but I am a successful negotiator. I am successful in persuading parties who are at each other's throats, where huge amounts of money and important company policies are at stake. And I've been successful in settling cases for small dollars and big dollars. An example would be taking out from my normal work, but a pro bono case I did where a city had terrible water and their city wasn't fixing the water. They asked us to help. The city wouldn't cooperate. We had to file a lawsuit, but we worked with them to reach a settlement where the city agreed to spend a certain amount more money per year on upgrading their water system so that their residents could have clean water.
Thank you. Your time. Candidate Klebeck, same question to you. What would you personally do to reach across party lines, and can you point to specific examples in your past to demonstrate that ability?
I think the skill that I kind of noticed myself is that managing organizations, which were several of them, including Chicago Yachting Association, I noticed that I have a skill of building alliances, coalitions together to bridge the divide, to make sure that they, at the end of the day, shake hands with each other. I think this is very important because you don't want to create animosity when you're trying to bridge the gaps. You have to bring people to the same table by coalitions. Then also what I think I actually see with myself, I like to work by example. If there's a solution that actually is maybe a dividing solution, but I look at the example in other organizations or in other countries. Actually, even my Magna agenda, several of these solutions are practiced elsewhere in other countries, so they are already very well done, and they're satisfying populace in those countries. That's another way of actually making sure that people see there's a solution. Let's come together. And last thing is, I found out that when I was managing my real estate business and being a landlord, that I was able in a court always to make, it meet the expectations of the judge and also even sometimes tenant by actually working with the tenant, let them more work, the plan, whatever. So I want to see this at work.
Thank you. Mike?
Round 6 of questions contains a specific question for each candidate, and we will start this round with candidate Caparelli. Thank you for joining us tonight, candidate Caparelli. You have a background in world trade as a member of the Illinois International Port Board. In Europe recently, favorability toward U.S. businesses fell, according to surveys, by about 28%. Brand USA seems to be developing some erosion across countries. Do you see murky waters ahead and some volatility, Or do you see trade and policy numbers improving under the Trump administration?
Well, again, those numbers that you're talking about, they all were accountable during the Democrat administration from Biden, and they are improving under President Trump, and I foresee them to be further improved in the near future. You may have noticed I give short and concise answers. I'm the only one that hasn't gone over the limit yet.
And thank you for that, Mr. Caporelli.
Thank you.
Mr. Tracy, you maintain a position, a policy position, that boys should not participate in girls' sports. 27 states have passed laws that require school athletic teams be separated by biological sex. While there has been executive action from the White House, the Senate rejected a House bill that included a transgender ban. While we wait for further rulings from the U.S. Supreme Court after arguments last month, if elected as U.S. Senator, would you work to codify into law a ban on boys in girls' sports?
Absolutely. It's so unfair to women, to girls that train so many years for the Olympics or whatever, like Riley Gaines, whom I had the pleasure of meeting about a month ago, then only to be aced out in a race by a male who has transgendered, but has the male chromosomes and is bigger and stronger and faster. The second reason why boys should not be allowed to play in girls' sports is creates a physical danger to the woman. There's an incident, a boxing incident, where a woman was severely injured by a male transgender. There have been other instances in contact sports, like soccer, where women can be seriously injured, and I think have been seriously injured by men in girls' sports. It's truly an upside-down world we live in today. It's just unbelievable that we're even talking about this. This just tells you the Democrats have gone bat stuff crazy, and nationally and in this state, which is why I think we have a shot at winning this open Senate seat, because they are going so far left on all these different issues. A lot of those people have been voting Democrat in Illinois for way too long, are finally going to wake up.
Candidate Evans, you have spent many years as an attorney and a litigator. In your work as an attorney, you have dealt with cases, as you have mentioned tonight, against Chinese companies like Temu and TikTok. These companies apparently collected U.S. Data on U.S. residents. In your opinion, how extensive is Chinese surveillance of U.S. data? And as a U.S. Senator, what would you do to try and stop it?
Chinese collection of U.S. data, people's individual private data and surveillance is extensive. I think the Congress has been briefed on this. This is why they were trying to take action to ban TikTok, and they've made certain apps, Chinese apps, inaccessible to members of the military because it is a real threat. So China does have the largest sort of data collection and data identification program of individuals in the world. They're collecting biometric information so they can identify people. And in their country, they have videos and sensors everywhere, but they have a lot of this in the United States too. And so they are our adversary. We have to take the threat seriously, not just about the personal data, but in terms of their companies, their buying of land, like farmland in Illinois, for example. And we do have to work hard to maintain U.S. leadership in AI, because we do not want bad actors to control AI that we have, that we are not able to compete with or police. So China is a real threat. They are taking our data. They are trying to compete with us in many different ways. And in Congress, I would be taking that very seriously and taking steps to protect our national security and also to protect our young people from addictive apps.
Mr. Chlebek, you have criticized in the past Obamacare as unaffordable and a trap, you say, for the youngest and poorest. If elected, do you pursue an unwinding of Obamacare through legislation, some targeted repeal, or something else that replaces Obamacare?
it's true that sometimes I do criticize and have a different opinion, but let me make it a point. I don't think that it is wise to totally remove certain measures because they do have their place and they should be preserved because they serve the cause. But what I think what we should do, we should always look for the different alternatives. As far as healthcare is concerned and general care, I think we should actually use more of a private approaches to this. I don't at all deny that government has a right place for it. It does initial programs that are running well, but I think private healthcare would more create a sort of transparency into the process and less fraud. At least I'm hoping that would be the case because ultimately I think a lot of schemes that are built around the healthcare system are actually almost like a fraudulent schemes. If I go to buy my Ozempic and pay $600, $1,250 at related costs, and in Europe it's $50, there's something wrong. Somebody is actually almost, I would say, stealing money. So we have to look at pharma and other agencies that actually are benefiting on the system. So therefore, I think we should adopt a different measure, different approach, and privatizing of it would be a first step to make sure that we eliminate the fraud that's sometimes very commonplace in our health industry.
Thank you. Ms. Long, one of your policy priorities is preserving Illinois as an important national and world transportation hub. In fact, 3 major interstates run within a few miles of your home. I-55, I-70, and I-64. Been there many times. If elected to the U.S. Senate, how do you enhance federal funding for roads, bridges, and airports without either increasing gas taxes on an already overburdened consumer, if your goal is keeping Illinois' position as a transportation hub?
Yeah, so Chicago is a hub for people and product. We have a lot of congestion. One, we need to make sure that we have regular infrastructure bills so that we can maintain the infrastructure that we have and we can expand capacity. I also want to make sure that we are taking a look at high-speed rail. If we could keep people in Illinois, high-speed rail might become a thing, but Illinois in particular is at a weakness for that, right? We have far too many intersections between cars and rail here. One of the things we need to do also is to make sure that the rails that we have are in good shape, so there's not a lot of slippage that is happening.
Candidate, thank you. Greg Bishop with the next round.
Same question for all the candidates, 90 seconds each, and we'll start with candidate Tracy. Immigration policy remains one of the most divisive issues in Congress. What reforms would you prioritize to secure the border while also addressing workforce needs and humanitarian concerns?
Well, first of all, the president has done an excellent job of closing the border without any legislation. The Democrats are claiming they had the open borders because they needed a law change, but that turned out to be a lie, of course. There are problems with immigration law. For example, waits for the wait time for visa and for citizenship applications are too long. I think we need to address that. The asylum system is being gamed. When 80 to 90% of asylum claims turn out to be denied because they're false claims, there's something wrong there. There is a provision for the public charge. You're not supposed to come to the United States for welfare. You're supposed to come here to work, and you're supposed to come here legally. But the definition of public charge is way too loose, and it is almost meaningless. So that's why so many government benefits are going to illegal aliens. That needs to be fixed as well. My policy on immigration is wide gates and tall fences, but those fences need to be secure. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done. Also, there is an act that has bipartisan support in the Congress called the Dignity Act that provides a path to legal residency, but not citizenship, not voting. And I would consider that.
Thank you for your time there. Candidate Evans, same question to you. Immigration policy is an important issue, but very divisive. What reforms would you prioritize to strengthen the border, but also address workforce and humanitarian concerns?
Under President Biden, we had millions of people crossing the border illegally. And this led to over probably 10 million illegal immigrants coming under that time. President Trump took the bold action that should have been taken years ago to secure our southern border, which is huge progress. A lot of this has been done through executive order. So one of the first things I would want to do in Congress is to pass legislation to codify those changes so that the next administration after President Trump doesn't make the same mistakes that were made under the Biden administration. So that's the first thing, securing the southern border, very important. After we have that in place, the next thing is to work with Congress to consider our immigration laws and make the decisions about who do we want to come into our country, how many, when, what can we accommodate in terms of our economy, our culture, democracy, what will be best for America. And we do need to think about what are the high-skilled workers we can bring in who are creating jobs. We have been a destination for a lot of skilled people who are creating jobs here in Illinois and across the country, creating innovative companies and startups that are employing us and our kids. And so we want to make sure we're attracting the people that are going to strengthen our country, both in the economy, but also that we're having the right mix to maintain our democracy and our culture and our civic society.
Mr. Klebeck, immigration policy. What would you prioritize?
Very sensitive issue, and I think, especially today, we all feel it. But I tell you, the reason we are into this problem is because we have an old system, 100 years old system, which needs a total overhaul to meet the needs of today, to make sure that we absorb immigrants that meet our values and our quotas. Actually, in my first cycle in 2020, I wrote an article in Spanish about what is my perception, how I see the solution. And what I see actually is entire process of vetting should be taken outside of the country, where we literally establish, I call them recruiting centers, where we vet the people who want to come here. Border is for the crossing of legal immigrants. If you don't have legal immigration, if you do it in mass, you don't have any border. So I do subscribe to the fact that we have to totally overhaul, because if we do that overhaul, we will avoid the situation we have today where ICE is on the streets. We probably will need that, not the ICE. And moreoverly, the border protection is on the border. If you go inside the country, that becomes actually a state security issue. And that should be totally different, I think, approach, where we should use judicial warrants, arrest warrants, etc., before yanking people out of the street, or worse, killing them. So I am very sensitive to this, but I see a totally different solution, which has to result by total overhaul of the system that we have right now at hand.
Candidate Long, the question on immigration policy.
The United States of America is incredibly generous in how many people we let in, both on visas and elsewise. In 1986, a Republican president, along with by obviously two houses, it facilitated a mass amnesty. That was a huge mistake. Here's my position. No amnesty. We cannot reward illegal immigration. We have to make sure that the pathway to citizenship is an application. We have that application. I would say we need to facilitate more self-deportations where people can leave on their own. And speaking of deportations, there's a way that the media is misconstruing the narrative. We've had 2 million self-deportations, over 500,000 deportations facilitated by ICE and CPD, but the few incidents that we have that are egregious, right, are highlighted, saying that there is a problem. ICE is not like the KKK. Please do not insult me as a 7th generation American by saying that. We need to to end the exportation of higher education. It was placed as a high priority export. We need to change that. Within 90 days of taking office, I will correct the birthright citizenship debacle that we have. The bill that I've written is called The Original Intent of Birthright Citizenship. Surely, the radical Republicans who were seeking to make sure that free Negroes and newly freed slaves did not intend for people to come over here and shoehorn. As a matter of fact, the folks who founded that or wrote that said, this law shall not include, of course, the babies of foreigners and aliens. Aliens is a legal term.
Thank you
it's
for
not an insult.
Your time is up. Mr. Caporelli, same question to you. What reforms would you prioritize to strengthen the border, but also address workforce needs and humanitarian concerns?
While I support legal immigration, I agree with President Trump on his actions to close the border and to discard those who are here illegally, because illegal means unlawful. At the same time, should these people who are here illegally but are providing vital workforce, we must work to give them a path to citizenship at some point in time. But at the same time, I'm just 100% supportive of whatever President Trump has decided, because I'm sure it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Now the next round. Mike has questions for all the candidates.
The question, the same question for all the candidates, revolves around the U.S. Supreme Court. Observers believe there could be as many as 2 justices that could leave the court in retirement after the recent session concludes. Give the listeners a couple of attributes that you would look for in a potential candidate for the court if elected to the U.S. Senate. And we start this round with Mr. Chlebek.
That's a very, I would say, delicate issue, because actually the Supreme Court is an arbiter, final arbiter of a dispute. If everything else fails, so let's go to the Supreme Court. So I do believe that we should maintain that institution and be very careful how we try to change it, because first solutions will not serve us well. This is an established institution which served us very well for centuries already. So if we do change, I advocate that it has to be done in a very careful manner, and I do believe that maybe we should restrict the longevity or tenure of each of the Supreme Judges, but I still think that we have to maintain the structure that we have. As far as bringing in the new faces, I think it should be almost like a bipartisan decision of who's going to be the next Supreme or in a position of a Supreme Court, because it is not serving us well where it is going in a direction of different parties. Normally, as it happens now, it's the president decides who's going to be the next nominee. I think maybe it'd be more about people making the decision and choosing the best and the brightest that can lead us and give us a balanced opinion on sometimes very difficult decisions, just like the tariffs that we almost saw it firsthand at the State of the Union. And that can be disturbing sometimes.
Thank you, candidate. Candidate Long, the same question, please, on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely important question. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that we have a Supreme Court that recognizes that and is not committed to legislating from the bench, but also people who are willing to answer the hard questions rather than trying to maybe hide what they truly believe. I want to make sure that anyone I affirm to the Supreme Court has the Constitution as their North Star, first and foremost. I want to make sure that justices have a solid historical knowledge, not just of the law, but also the history. We are a very storied nation. The Supreme Court has made monumental, morally sound, constitutionally rooted decisions that were unpopular at the time, but they were the thing that needs to happen. I need to see leaders, and I do believe justices are leaders. I need to see leaders who are willing to take the arrows. I need to see leaders who are willing to say yes when yes is the right answer and no when no is the right answer. I also want to see people who know what a woman is.
Thank you, candidate. Mr. Caporelli, same question, please.
My late father always told me I can't name call, so I'm going to use some adjectives and adverbs here. We have enough people acting like whack jobs in the Supreme Court, and I'm sure President Trump is very disappointed in his last two appointments, Kavanaugh and Barrett. So I hope he picks somebody that's absolutely conservative. And I'm going to throw a couple names out: Senator Mike Lee and Senator Ted Cruz.
Candidate Tracy, your answer to the same question.
Well, first, I think both Senators Lee and Cruz would be excellent appointees to the Supreme Court. As a lawyer, I was president of the Sangamon County Bar Association. That's my home county. I was also active in the Illinois State Bar Association, secretary to the Illinois Bar Foundation, and among other things, I was chairman of the Judicial Advisory Polls Committee, which polls lawyers in a potential judge's area on various characteristics of being a judge. And then they release those polls to the public as a guide to voters, because in Illinois, judges are elected, as we all know. And one of those characteristics that is, I think, is pretty important to me anyway, is judicial temperament. Because you can be the smartest guy if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, I'm not sure you're going to be the best judge, because that means you probably don't listen well, and you probably don't treat the people in front of you with the dignity that they deserve. So I think judicial temperament is most important. But on the Supreme Court in particular, what's really important is that we confirm real judges, not judicial legislators, like in the Roe versus Wade case. That was a made-up law. They completely made up the right to abortion in the Constitution out of whole cloth. Those are the kind of judges we don't need. We don't need judicial activist legislative judges. So I would look for judges that are real judges and that interpret the law and don't make the law.
Thank you, candidate. Ms. Evans, as a litigator, what would you look like if elected to the U.S. Senate, someone that would come before you as being reviewed for a potential seat on the U.S. Supreme Court?
Yeah, first, I just want to clarify that, yes, it would be our president who would be making the nominations. Our president has the constitutional authority to make the nominations and to choose those people who he believes will be faithful in applying the Constitution and applying original intent and respect for our Republican, our democracy, our democratic republic. So as a senator, what I'd be looking for is justices who are faithful to the Constitution, to applying the law, enforcing, applying the law as it stands of the Constitution and the other many statutes that come before them, federal and state statutes. And I'd be looking for honesty, integrity, character. So we know we have honest, good people as judges trying to make the right decisions, and that they are rooted in a love for the Constitution and a loyalty to applying it fairly and honestly, so we can uphold the freedoms that we have in America.
The next round will go to Greg Bishop.
Same question for all of the candidates, and we'll start with candidate Long. Artificial intelligence and emerging technologies are advancing faster than regulation is. While some states are looking to regulate, what role should Congress play in regulating artificial intelligence while still encouraging innovation?
Yeah, I think there has to be an organizing principle around AI, that it is to be an aid and a supplement to human decision-making, human labor, and the like. That's a meta sort of question. In addition to that, there are ways that AI is really leveraging people's likeness, their voice, their image, that has caused a lot of problems, and I would even say trauma, for people to find their face engaged in things that they did not engage in. So one, I think Americans or people are going to have to be allowed to copyright their voice, image, and likeness, and for there to be penalties for people who abuse or misuse that voice, image, likeness, and other elements of copyrightability. I also believe that any AI-augmented political messages, for sure, should have a visible warning at the beginning. If it's auditory, it should have an auditory warning, and perhaps a warning throughout or a notice throughout that this was augmented by AI. I do believe that the Department of Justice, an executive area for sure, will need to have a special unit to actually adjudicate these claims of copyright infringement, as well as how those dovetail with the FCC, even the federal elections commissions and the like. And there definitely needs to be collaboration between the federal, state, and local governments to make sure that people are protected, both the image of the person as well as the users.
Mr. Caparelli.
AI scares me because it's misleading. And there needs to be intense government regulation at both the government and the private levels to control it so it doesn't mislead others.
Mr. Tracy.
AI is a powerful force. Some say that whoever controls AI will control the world. And that's why we cannot let China win the race to have the best AI. So regulating AI has national security implications. It needs to be regulated to some extent, but we can't regulate it so much that we strangulate it and lose the race to China. And it needs to be regulated for the reasons that I believe that Dr. Long mentioned, to protect privacy, intellectual property, and things like that. But for one thing is, so it's not, nobody has the answer to that right now, but we need to proceed with care. And the last thing we need is to have state-by-state regulation. A patchwork of regulation would be a tremendous obstacle to winning the race with China. So whatever the regulation it is, it needs to be done at a national level, and it can't be overdone. China does not, they don't worry about regulation, they don't worry about privacy rights. So we're already competing with someone with an unfair advantage, so we can't tie our hands behind our backs by over-regulating AI, but it does need to be regulated reasonably.
Ms. Evans.
Yeah, AI is with us, and it is advancing at rates that people did not anticipate. We could be a few years away from massive AGI, superintelligence, general intelligence, where the AI advancement gets out of control of humans, and AI can have the ability to create bioweapons that can threaten national security. So I think the leaders at the front of AI often talk about AI as a weapons system. So this is very serious. So we have to take it seriously. And I think one of the things America is doing is creating AIs that will police other AIs. So bad actors can get in control of AI and can ask it to do things like create a weapon that could harm people or that could hack into the financial system and steal our money. These are real things. So this race for U.S. Senate is very important, and one of the important issues is AI. Having someone in the Senate who's going to get informed. I've been talking to people from OpenAI, those are the people who are about no regulations. We've got to innovate quickly to compete with China. And then we've got the kind of leaders of Anthropic who are more about we need some reasonable guardrails. We have to have some guardrails and some precautions to protect national security, to protect us and our young people and the kind of content that we're getting and the ways AI can interact with us. So we need experts we need to be getting all these expert opinions about how to do this and how to find the right balance. And just on another topic, I'll say I do support that people should get some control and profit from their own data and the content that they've created.
That's your time. Thank you. Candidate Schlebeck, artificial intelligence. Should it be regulated by Congress? How would you approach that?
Most definitely. But let me tell you, when I graduated from UICC, I had a minor in computer sciences. 50 years ago, I noticed that this is very dangerous in its capacity, what it can do. Because today, it not only can replace us intellectually, but even physically. Let me tell you just one thing. I'm talking about often, so does President Trump, by bringing the jobs back from overseas, 50 million jobs, 50,000 factories. But you know what? When these jobs come back, I don't think they can find employment. What's going to happen, new factories will be set up with robots, will replace us. This is a danger which we face, and we have to find a solution how to accommodate our society so we can cope with this. I think maybe even it's somewhat too late to do this, but it is an urgent thing. We have to do something very quickly because the capabilities and possibilities are endless. I see it myself, and I saw it 50 years ago. So let's don't throw the dice and let it fly. We have to have a very definite plan for controlling AI. Needless to say, worse, advanced or enhanced AI.
Mr. Schlebach, thank you. Candidates, thank you for your response to that question. Our time is almost up. So we will now move to closing statements. We will once again begin with Mr. Schlebach. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Today matters because the future of our country matters. I'm Casey Schlebach, and I'm humbly asking you for a chance to bring real leadership and accountability to Washington. We can do better, a lot better. This is a generational transformation that starts actually with you, because you are the one that will be setting a new course for our country. Okay. As a senator, I will fight for each and every day to bring you prosperity and security by lower taxes, secure borders, safer communities, and carefree environment. And carefree retirement, I'm not a career politician. I'm a citizen who has a passion and love for this country. I will work to improve our relations with the rest of the world, I told you, with Mullah, which will be trying to make the U.S. loved again. But lastly, let's just remember, it's about people, not about policies, politics, or parties. So we the people, for the people, with the people, we can save this constitutional republic for this and future generation. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Candidate Schlebach, thank you. Candidate Long, your closing argument.
So thank you for everyone who stayed for this. My name is Dr. Pamela Denise Long. I'm running for United States Senate because I want my grandchildren and yours to inherit a nation that makes sense. What that looks like to me is redesigning healthcare where we have an off-ramp to the subsidies and where your health insurance belongs to you. I want to make sure that I continue to be a champion of free speech. We talked about bipartisanship and working across the aisle. I lead spaces on Twitter X, and I've had up to 30,000 people join me from around the world to engage in conversations about what's important to them, to wrestle with ideas. I think that's how we become a more perfect union and how we develop policies that actually meet human need. We talk a lot about flipping Chicago or Illinois red. You do that with real, authentic relationships. I've built those real, authentic relationships with the folks that we need to flip, so to speak, but really it's being seen and solving real problems. One of the things that I've presented is something called the lineage-based investment. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. I'd love for you to visit my website. I'm trying to sunset minority spending, but one of the things we need to do is make sure that misappropriate money, where everyone who's not a straight white Christian male can fly over here and for some reason get special dispensation. It's wrong, it's wasteful. We need to redirect that toward Americans first. 8 out of 10 conservatives that I talk to about it agree with it, so check it out. The other thing, I'm endorsed by Veterans for America First. What I want to make sure is for those who've bled and died for this nation, that they are prioritized. I want to make sure your transition, that the skills you acquire in the military transition to home. My name is Pamela Denise Long. Make sure you Google me and visit my website. Thank you.
Candidate, thank you. Mr. Caporelli.
As a common sense conservative, I'm positioning myself for an upset here. I have the education, the experience, and the energy to drop the gloves with the Democrats and beat them. Matter of fact, I'm so far off the right, I should be over there. But I will say this, should I not win, I will gladly support any one of these other candidates to beat the Democrats.
Candidate Tracy.
There are 8 statewide offices in Illinois, including the 2 U.S. Senate seats. This open U.S. Senate seat is a terrific opportunity for the right candidate to win as an Illinois Republican. But winning it will not be easy. And in a blue state like Illinois, it is highly unlikely that a candidate with little or no political experience and zero governing experience will be able to defeat a well-funded career politician, Democrat, elected official on the other side, which is who we will be facing. I am the most qualified candidate to win that seat. I know how to build and organize organizations. I know how to work with diverse coalitions, which is a bit like herding cats. I know how to raise money. That was my principal job as Illinois State Chairman. And as a lawyer, I know how to deal with adversaries. If I'm elected as your new U.S. Senator, I will represent your interest in Washington, not special interest. Don't be crazy. Vote for Tracy.
And finally tonight, candidate Evans.
It is time for a fresh face of the Republican Party in Illinois. I am not part of the establishment. I've not run before. I am bringing a fresh voice. I am a mom. I'm a successful lawyer. I have worked and been successful in helping Americans for years. I am ready to work with our president to cut the red tape and cut the taxes so that businesses can thrive and create jobs for people in Illinois. I am tough in the courtroom. I'm tough in the negotiation table. I've gotten great results for Americans, and I am ready to get great results for you. I ask for your vote, Jeannie Evans, for United States Senate on March 17th. I will be the last name on the ballot, and I would be honored to partner with you to flip the United States Senate seat red. Thank you.
Our time for tonight's debate is up. We want to thank each one of you candidates who chose to participate tonight. Audience, you may now give them a round of applause. We would also like especially to thank Benedictine University for hosting us tonight, and thanks to all of you for joining us here live, as well as those listening and watching. On behalf of my co-moderator, Greg Bishop, I'm Mike Scott. Thanks for joining us here tonight on AM 560, The Answer.
Principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings inviting you to join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening this November 2026. Imagine it, turquoise waters, white sand, beaches, incredible food, and insightful conversations about the future of our great country. Mike Gallagher and I will dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Text cruise to 94878 or visit scottjenningsshow.com and click the cruise banner to sign up today.
If you'd like a smartphone that's really smart, download the OnePlace.com app, the app that will inspire your faith daily and provide answers to the biggest questions of all. OnePlace lets you download your favorite pastor's programs and listen even offline or in airplane mode with easy connections to your Bluetooth speaker or dashboard. To download your free OnePlace app, visit the iTunes App Store or the Google Play Store for your Android device and search for OnePlace. That's OnePlace.
She's unafraid and unapologetic. She's Laura Trump, and she's shaking things up on the Right View podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
We're now in a midterm election year, and the Democrats, I think, are panicking. They have very little to run on. The faces of their party now are socialists. Democrats, I think, are probably looking at Tim Walz and they're like, we don't need the distraction of another failed Democrat.
Subscribe to the Right View podcast with Laura Trump on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at Salem Podcast Network. JudicialPhilosophyNetwork.com.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
Salem Surround. Meet with a digital marketer today for ideas that will make your business stand out. Visit SalemSurround.com.
The mainstream media wants to divide Americans into neat little groups, and they want you to believe that everyone in each one of those groups thinks alike. John Anthony is here to blow up that lie. Join him for Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4, when he provides a different perspective on what it means to be black and right. This Saturday afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560. The Answer. Voice for the new right, charting a new path forward for American conservatism. It's the Josh Hammer Show, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Is this going to explode into 2020? For a while, it looked like that was not going to be the case. Increasingly, I am less confident. They're not stopping. They are being aided and abetted by willful idiot, neo-Confederate insurrectionist politicians like the coward in the Twin Cities, Tim Walz.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting, we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, The Dragon's Prophecy, combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza, now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes.